It's already June, almost the end of June, in fact. We're already halfway through the year. So before we start the summer break, off from the vPub in a couple of weeks' time, we always, at this point in the year, look back over the 6 months of the year and figure out what is worth speaking about. What have we discovered that's new, what's been released in that period of time that we're really excited about, that we enjoy, that we want to share, that we feel like it's something we could recommend to our friends and our whiskey pals. The reason that we do this twice a year now over the last few years is because there's just so many new whiskies coming out all the time, isn't there? And it's tough to keep up. In fact, I've got 15 bottles sitting beside me tonight. Now, I'm not going to share all 15 bottles with you tonight, but I'm going to pick some of them to talk about for each of half a dozen categories in order for us to celebrate the best of 2026. So far, at least. I'll see you all in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night. Welcome to another vPub. I hope you're all doing very, very well. If you're in the UK or Northern Europe or pretty much anywhere in Europe right now, you're probably a little uncomfortably warm. We're in that period of the year where occasionally more and more it seems like we can suffer from wee kicks of heat waves. It's certainly even reached as far north as Scotland. And today, in the car today, the temperature gauge read 27.5 degrees. I didn't quite believe it. I thought it was a bit flaky, but it turns out that in some parts of Glasgow, we did reach 27 degrees today and 30 degrees in other parts of Scotland. Quite incredible. I know that wherever you are, that will seem positively cool and welcome by comparison. However, a lot of you are tuning in from the Southern Hemisphere as well, and you're sitting there probably wrapped up in your winter warmers. Wherever you are and whatever you're up to, whatever you're sipping, whether you can or not, you're very welcome here tonight. It's wonderful to have you all hanging out with me as we try and dedicate a little bit of a vPub to celebrating the good things, to talk positively about whiskey the way we like to enjoy it here. I would suggest that I've never had a year where we reach the halfway point and I look back over the previous 6 months and I'm struggling to come up with things. Sometimes pickings are lighter than other years, of course, that makes sense. But in the last couple of 3 years, it feels to me like we've been spoiled for choice. There's just so many brands, there's so many independent bottlers, there's so many distilleries, so many new distilleries, so many Scotch whiskies, so many Irish whiskies, English whiskies, world whiskies. There's just so much choice that we're struggling to keep up. And one of the ways that we keep up, one of the ways that we help reduce the risk of our spending is we work together as a community and we fathom out where the good stuff is. And if some guy on the internet tells you that a whiskey's good and you gamble on it and you don't enjoy it, you can call it out. And here, by some guy on the internet, I'm obviously talking about myself. But if I do suggest something to you, and everything that I suggest is because I've discovered it to be delicious or worthwhile, a solid recommendation, that type of thing, of course I am. I'm beholden to you. The funding, all the funding comes from you. There's no funding from me, from the industry, none at all. So my priority will always be you. And if you do find something that I've recommended that's enjoyable and it's good, likewise call it out and celebrate it. And that way we get a wee bit of consensus. But also tonight, it would be nice, because it's impossible for me to pick up all the whiskey discoveries in the first 6 months, all the new releases in the first 6 months. Come along and share what you've enjoyed tonight. I'm going to go through 6 categories tonight. Have I written them down? Have I still got my notes here? I'm going to start off. In fact, I'm going to start and close with a world whiskey because I think they are both very, very special for very different reasons. And the one that I'm going to close with tonight, I'm going to ask it to compete with what is widely celebrated to probably be the best contemporary whiskey that exists. That's quite a bit of hyperbole there. Of course there is. I'm not trying to build it up so that you all stay till the end. I know that a lot of you pick this up podcast style and break it down into chunks. Thank you very, very much if you're picking this up in the replay. Thank you. But for those of you that are staying here live tonight and you're going to hang out with me till the quiz at the end tonight, before we go into the quiz at the end, I'm going to put something that I have invested a lot of time enjoying, and I feel it's something truly unique and special, and I'm a wee bit keen to try to not only get it across how special I think it is, but also to put it up against something that will really try and give it a run for its money. In between then, we're going to be talking about inaugurals for this year. We're going to be talking about blends and indies. We're going to be talking about official releases from distilleries. And we're going to be talking about, as I say, that thing at the end that's quite special. So we've got half a dozen categories to get throughout tonight before we hit that quiz at the end. Lots and lots to share and talk about. However, before we get into all of that, I'm going to do what we always do. I'm going to raise a wee glass that's just freshly charged. This is a wee independently bottled Adelphi Binrinus 14-year-old in the glass. I should show you the bottle. This was up for a bit of discussion tonight, but something else has taken its spot. Nevertheless, I decided, that this would be a good wee bottle to share with you and chat. And sorry, as a chat to you, and welcome you all in with. Welcome. I hope your Thursday night is going great. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous. I'm picking up the orange as I always do. So if you're trying to get a hold of me, my attention, just type Aquavitae or at Aquavitae. Remember, it's a V instead of a U for aqua, and it pops up orange. And just like Herben in the Netherlands has done, I'm able to pick up his comment. He's saying, good evening, Barflies Aquavitae. A long hot date at the bridge, but lovely to be here for a while. I know the Netherlands is way up in the high 30s as well, I heard. Falsgraf is here. Good to see you, buddy. I hear you're a wee bit poorly this week. You're recovering. Indeed, it's way over 30 degrees here. Luckily at night, it does cool down to a bearable temperature. I hope it does tonight for you as well, especially if you're suffering, buddy. And I wish you the very, very best. And I hope you're back to fit, pain-free health very, very soon, buddy. It's nice to welcome you in here regardless. Hixie771 is saying, good morning, Aquavitae and Barflies. Tried the Laddie Yellow Submarine yet, Troy? I have, Hixie, I have actually. I wonder if you'll see a bright yellow bottle appearing on the vPub this evening. Stay tuned, buddy. I wonder if I've welcomed you in before. If I haven't, it's nice to have you here. Gino Camon Canada saying, evening, Roy, sitting right beside my buddy Graham. Ha, superb for this vPub. Hope you're doing well, my friend, Aquavitae. Wonderful. Good to see you and your buddy Graham sitting next to each other. I hope you're comfortable in a bit better temperatures than we are here. Cheers, Gino, and cheers, Graham. Terrific to hear. Cheers, boys. Jeffrey Bangers is saying, hello, Roy, and you beautiful Barflies. Just packed up my grade 2 classroom today, so I'm celebrating my first day of summer vacation. Don't hate me. Cheers. Jeffrey, we don't hate you at all. Well done, buddy. You guys just don't get enough praise and often enough payment for what you actually do, especially the very, very gifted and talented teachers among you all. My son is now on holiday as of yesterday. So the vibes around the house change quite significantly over the summer holidays. I hope you have a peaceful one. It's deserved. A very generous dram came in from, I'm so sorry about yesterday's result. Truly heartbreaking. Okay. That's my friend from Brazil. That's Raphael. And he's given me a very, very generous dram as well in commiseration. I think Scotland are on their way home now. I think it's silly just to try and hang on for results elsewhere. We just need to take it on the chin. Like always, we're just happy to be there, and I think we expressed that. I say we, I wasn't there obviously, but the Scots fans, the fan base express it in a way that makes it very palpable how much we enjoy being part of the whole thing. I wish you the best going forward, Rafa. I hope, Raphael, I hope that you are indeed getting behind the team. And I don't even think that Brazil have got into top gear yet. Been working on the World Cup games in the States, says Keith McDonald. Fantastic, buddy. I hope you're enjoying it over there, fella. It's nice to have you in here tonight. We've all suffered the 3 games with Scotland. Unfortunately, not seen Scotland shine in this competition. It's just the way that it tends to go for us, but we still love them. Alistair Grace celebrating a member for 76 months, saying hello from sunny Salou, sipping a Ben Romac 11.46%. The irony is that I don't think the temperature is much warmer in Salou than it is in Speyside right now, Alistair. Well done, buddy. I hope you have a fantastic time. That looks like Frank Garrow. He's saying, Aquaviti, I would posit Roy Duff is one of the best of 2026. Hey, Frank, you must be new here. You're not fed up of me yet. You've not had enough of me yet, Frank. But that's very, very generous of you and very nice words to say as well. Raphael, thank you. Frank, thank you. Alistair, thank you. And Keith, thank you so much. Cheers. Clit's to saying, I'll have to grab my Living Souls Balmenic 22 to celebrate the topic. Looked through a lot of great bottles I considered, and they turned out to be 2025 bottlings, so Balmenic it is. I don't know if you spotted, but I've opened 2 of those Balmenic 22s this year in the V. I think they've both been opened in the vPub. Maybe one was a lock-in. Doesn't matter. There's a theme throughout tonight, actually, that there's a lot of bottles that I have actually bought 2 of, and I'm now on the second bottle. Or if I could get a second bottle, I would absolutely be buying a second bottle of. It is a theme. And that's absurd, because a couple of weeks back, I shared with you the collection video, and I confessed to everyone how many bottles I have here in the vPub collection selection, how many were open and how many were sealed. And that was a very, very significant number of bottles of whiskey. So for me to be buying backups of bottles and not just kind of moving on and keeping up with the next thing seems a bit silly, but I'm still a helpless, hopeless, failure of a whiskey botherer. I am constantly loving new bottles that bring fantastic flavor for good prices. And when I find those bottles, they come front of shelf. They get sipped quicker than the others, because when people come to the house, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Some people are taking away wee sample bottles, that type of thing. Some people are actually just sitting there and enjoying it so much that at the end of the night you say, you know what? I can see you're loving this. Just take it away with you. Especially that's easy to do when you can pick up a replacement bottle. So that's happened quite a lot. And I noticed it is a wee bit of a theme tonight. And I hope that I'm mindful enough to mention it when that happens. And I can tell you the ones that I've bought a second bottle of. But that Balmenic 22 Klitz was one for me. I think the one I gifted and somebody took away, they brought it back when they came on another night, and they'd taken a chunk out of it and brought it back and then didn't take it away again. And I don't think that's nothing to do with how much they enjoyed it. I just think that they went away and worked out that it was £100 bottle of whiskey, panicked and brought it back. So, I think next time I'll bring them in this room and let them realize that that doesn't need to be a thing. Anyway, it will be a theme tonight. The chat's jumped. I do apologise. Toby Asp saying, good evening, Roy, and everyone. Just the regular cool and net worth sea summer up here in Trondheim. Yeah, it's maybe not, the heat wave hasn't got quite as crazy that far up, buddy. I hope you get some nice blue skies at the very least. Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow's saying, a Lagmore from Living Souls, bourbon matured and a little bit of citrus, waiting for the match to start. Of course, there's lots of football on tonight. We might struggle with going out live during the football. That's absolutely fine. It's one of the things about the vPub is that you can always pick it up on the replay. Whereas Roy is also in Norway saying, good evening. A Loch Lomond Distillery edition in the glass, no heat wave, 14 degrees C, nice and cool, same as Toby. Tell me which distillery edition do you have in a glass? Always good to have you in here, buddy. Nice to have you. Meet me saying, sending thoughts and prayers to my brother, who's a Scottish ginger now living in France. I'm fed up with you, Aquaviti. Jimmy Legg is in and on point, cutting as usual. Wonderful to have you, Jimmy. I hope you and I hope Angie are both doing very, very well. I know you're fed up, but you turn up every week regardless. It's very much appreciated. Jerry Miller is saying, good evening, Roy. Enjoying an Adelphi Inchgower right now. Lovely dram. Fantastic, buddy. And Doodle the Dram is saying, so nice once again to see you and all the barflies gathered again. I will watch on replay after 3 a.m. today and travel to Germany, says Arnie. 38 degrees here and rising over the next few days. Yeah. What a time to be going over to the continent as well. It's not going to get any cooler over there. I hope you're going to a place that has a bit of ventilation, at the very least, maybe even some aircon. Michael Wood is in. Evening all, I'm two-timing football on and aquavitae beside it. I saw 37 degrees centigrade as I drove home earlier. Michael, I know you're a bit further south than me by quite a way, but 10 degrees, my goodness, even warmer. 37 is incredible. Greg's Whisky Guide, he's in Paris. He'll be uncomfortably warm as well. Hi, Roy, aquavitae. Everyone, not sure I can handle 2 or 3 hours live, meaning both hearing you and interacting with folks in the chat, but we'll try a bit as I'm still liquefied in the attic with 34 degrees centigrade. I know, buddy, it's so uncomfortable. Very true, Roy. Think that 21 back home today, 34 here. Great holiday so far with the family. Fantastic, buddy. Hope you enjoy it. Drink it in. Herben is saying I'm opening my yellow submarine. Fantastic. Good for you, fella. Andy Hills is saying a can of Tesco's finest fizzy apple juice in the glass this evening. Driving in the morning, lol. A tad warm here on the peninsula. I hope the fizzy apple juice is freezing cold and you've poured it maybe over some ice. Seb in Portugal, Seb in Lisbon is saying half final made it in at the start after a while. Aquavitae, terrible result yesterday, but at least we still have our happy place in the vPub tonight. I know, buddy. I was fairly pragmatic after I got over the disappointment last night. Woke up this morning like, yeah, okay, let's move on. Still lots of football to watch, right? Even though Scotland aren't going to be there. Overland Rams is saying, evening, Roy. Enjoying an iced coffee and appreciate your dulcet whiskey tones as I work away in the afternoon. Obviously, Overland Rams, that's Chuck in Colorado. He's probably used to these temperatures, but he's also probably got air conditioning to cope with them. Bud Jenkins is saying, I have been Riak Smoky 12 in a glass. A nice value dram with lots of flavour. Fantastic, Bud. Great to welcome you here, regardless of what's in the glass. But that Ben Riak Smoky, if you're enjoying it, it's perfect to have you. Okay, not quite fed up with you. I'm a bit fed up with your central defenders. There was some foul language thrown at the TV from not just me last night, Jimmy as well. They're only human, fella, right? And we have to remember Scotland's a wee teeny 5 million population country as well. We don't get a lot of practice at these events. I'm making all the excuses for them. But it is what it is. Whiskey with Molly saying, aquavitae, I'm dealing with the heat fine. The best way you can in Scotland, a pint of Tennent's. Superb. The more freezing, the better. Jesper Bach is saying, evening, Roy. Good to see you, Jesper. Paul Goods is saying, Andy, helps Peter, evening. All stay cool. Lie in a cold bath. Maybe not with a laptop, right? Good to see you, Ben. Good to see you, Jesper. Good to see Paul. Let's go on with things tonight. Let's start off with a wee interesting point. Last week was a vPub topic that I found particularly interesting, and that is all the new distilleries that's come along in the last it ended up being about the last 15 to 20 years, maybe not quite as far as that. Some were quite a bit younger, but I was focused on anybody that was able to bring out whiskey in the realms of 7 or 8 years old. And I was basically categorizing them into green, amber, red, or ABC, or as I categorized it last week, successes, possibles, and unintelligibles. That is, ones that have demonstrably, objectively been a success and widely embraced for whatever reason, the liquid, the value proposition, the package, the flavor, the quality of spirit, everything, the vibes, the connectedness of whatever, all of it has just landed very, very well and been well received, more or less. The possibles were ones that we were still waiting to see how they were going to move, that they were still they hadn't fully shown us their hand, you might say, or they haven't managed to do everything quite as successfully yet. And then there were other ones, a category that I called unintelligibles. And that was ones that I just couldn't get my head around what they were trying to be, for who, why it was so difficult for me to connect with them, or why I felt so distant from some of them. And of course, I caveated it all with the fact that it was me speaking personally and giving my own opinion. But I also admitted that a lot of the opinions I shared last week, I know for a fact that there's a lot of overlap and consensus with the community in general. And some of the feedback I've had since has confirmed that. But I have had people reaching out to me after that session, and the people that have been reaching out to me are the people behind the brands themselves. Now, it's very easy if you appear on the successes slide to say, thanks, Roy, I really appreciate that. Love the words. keep going strong, man, everything's great, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's all great because I've been celebrating them and stuff like that. But the ones that are in the lower slides, you know, that's far less likely to hear from them. Unless you're Annabelle Thomas of Nicknain. She watched and listened to what I had to say about the Nicknain whiskey and the brand. And she took some time and she put her thoughts on a message to me and sent a direct message to me. That is wonderful to read, because that means that what we have in Nicknain is somebody with their eye on things, somebody interested in kind of connecting or whatever. And I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to watch the vPub or watch any YouTube content or that type of things, but it means that they're aware and they've paid attention. And for them to take some time to send a message means that they actually care. It's wonderful to hear, because all of the whiskies on all of the slides I put out there all have fantastic potential. None of them are particularly poor. Some of them are just poorly handled. However, I suggested that Nicknain, we needed some reassurance or something to know that that organic meant that it's organic. And Annabelle was very, very strongly worded. She said it's absolutely 100% organic certified. So the first thing I need to say is Nicknain is an organic single malt Scotch whisky, and everything that's required upon them in order for them to be organic is so. So without any discussion or conversation with Annabelle, I've simply gone back and said, thank you. I'll make sure that I put that straight. And then I just kind of spoke about how I present things and caveat things and that type of thing. But I think it says a lot when companies, I think brands, distilleries, independent bottlers, whoever it is, they maybe are picking up little snippets and things like that, and they're trying to pick up and get some feedback and wondering how they can get some feedback on how their product's going down, what they could do a little bit better, especially if it's things that's quite easy for them to tweak or that type of thing. But we never know whether they are paying attention or listening or not. And I'm not suggesting that anybody that I speak about in the vPub I should hear anything from. Absolutely not. That's really, really quite silly. But I think it's fantastic that once in a blue moon that you get somebody who's paying attention and who cares and reaches out. So fantastic. Nicknain is already further up on my radar simply because I've taken one step closer to feeling connected with it. It doesn't need to be the owner. It doesn't need to be the person behind the brand. It could simply be the army of kind of representative visitor centre managers, brand ambassadors, distillers, product development people, comms people. It doesn't matter who it is. Faces, personality behind the brand helps immeasurably, not just in whiskey, but in anything that we touch. I think it goes a long way. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you very much. I want to talk a wee bit about, this is just a little bit of housekeeping I'm getting out of the way before we swing into the topic tonight. The schedule for the rest of the year, when I say the rest of the year, up until the summer break. Why does Roy take a summer break? Why did I disappear for 6 or 7 weeks every single summer? When I started to do the vPub, especially when I started to do it regularly, I knew that break in summertime would be critical. I had been watching YouTube and I had been involved in various projects and things that start off earnestly in the past for, so I was so familiar with the pattern that I knew without a way to refresh and take a healthy break, you're not going to be able to defeat the burnout monster. You're going to get to a point where you just can't do it anymore and give up. However, if you schedule in regular breaks, I take a break in winter and a break in summer. And there's also kind of quarterly breaks there as well, round about Easter usually, and one round about October where I take a week off there. I take a couple or 3 weeks, sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks at winter, and then a big 6-week break in summertime. And that is, every time I come back, I'm recharged and I'm ready. And I think that's the reason I'm still sitting here after 8.5 years. I don't think I would be if I didn't put that in place. I say all that to say, after tonight, there are only 2 more vPubs before the summer break. The 2nd of July, it'll be a community-themed thing. It'll be based around blind tasting, and it'll be trying to have a wee bit of a party and some fun. and trying to capture some of that really good fun magic that Roddy and I had when we were doing the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malts together a couple of weeks back. It was great fun. And then the week after will be a weird way to finish out the vPub run before the end of, I don't want to call it a season, that's a weird thing, before the summer break. It'll be an on-location vPub. A secret location, of course, like they mostly are these days. And guess away and try and guess the location that I'll be broadcasting to you from in 2 weeks' time. I bet you'll struggle to guess where I'm coming to you from. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, there's only 2 left after tonight, so let's relax a wee bit and enjoy this evening. Quick update on the recycled cask. You might remember in the collections video I shared with everyone a couple of weeks ago just how many bottles we had here. And I was currently going through a clear out, and I was getting rid of so many bottles that had done their time or they'd served their purpose here. And that meant upcycling them, if you like, moving them on to something else, an interesting project. As long as the whiskey was good quality, as long as it wasn't off, as long as it was whiskey, it could be donated to a quarter cask. I think it's a quarter cask. It's basically a Balmenic, ex-Balmenic blood tub that I've got. And I'm just pouring these whiskies into that. Okay, so as long as it's, like I say, it's whiskey, as long as it's good quality, I'm not putting any bad stuff or horrible stuff in there. Certainly anything that's corked or anything like that is just poured away. It ended up being about 100 bottles that I put outside the door there in order to upcycle, to donate. And I left it there for a week or so because I knew that my mood would change and I would probably want to maybe keep some back. That's exactly what happened. So a lot of whiskies get pulled back in, dusted down and put back on the shelf. And I ended up donating 73 bottles, and that yielded 35 litres of whiskey. How do I know? Well, this Demijohn that sits behind me, that's a 5 litre. You can see it's already half full with dregs again. You don't need to drink everything. I never put these. If I've sipped from it, it goes away, it's thrown away. But if you've got samples that you're not going to finish, if you've got heels of bottles that are cluttering the place up, it goes in this Demijohn here. And once it gets full, it's 5 litres in it, it goes into the recycled cask. So I was able to fill that Demijohn 7 times for 35 litres of liquid that went into the cask. I've taken a sample of it. It's a mess. Of course it is. It's not something that you would pour your guests. But I've just taken that snapshot at that moment in time. The last time I did this, it was also a mess. But I left it for 2 years and it became really quite rounded out and married and drinkable. So now there's a lot more liquid in that cask. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years. The reason I share it with you all is because I know a lot of you have been asking about it. I'll accept some of the blame, says Jimmy Legg, for you needing a break, Aquaviti. Completely understandable. I don't feel like I need a break now, Jimmy. I'm actually a wee bit sad that we're only 2 vPubs away from the summer break. I'm looking forward to the break, don't get me wrong. But I know that I'll be hopefully better for it. Seb is saying, you remind me of that Scottish joke about how 2 cows in a field. How do you know which one is on holiday? The one with the wee calf. Scots, a wee bit of Scots in there, a wee calf, a week off. Good night all, I'll show myself out. That's not a bad joke. It's an old one. The old ones are the best. Ben is saying, good Roy Aquaviti. Cheers to clearing out some shelf space. Absolutely. 73 bottles is a decent yield. Falscraft is saying, Roy, your breaks are deserved and necessary. I mean, it's not just the vPub, it's all those other projects you do. Stick to the healthy balance you have there. Well, that's the thing. A lot of the other projects I do, I'm not able to take the 6-week break. But certainly cutting down on the work hours during that time by spending less time doing the Aquaviti stuff helps a lot. Going south of the border, perchance, Wirework, says Andy Hells. Oh, you're thinking about the on-location vPub. Keep guessing, Andy. You might be correct. You might not be. Jeffrey Byers is saying, you don't have to convince me. After 26 years in the classroom, I definitely understand that rewarding work requires breaks to recharge the batteries. Absolutely, Jeffrey. When you spoke earlier, it was in my mind. Henrik Schmidt is saying, Aquaviti, absolutely on point with your vacation and breaks. It was mentioned by a sister channel on the barrel who felt burned out and have paused his channel for now. Absolutely. It's so even when you're loving the thing, even when you do enjoy it, you've got this kind of constant schedule, this constant churn, this anxiety that, is the topic I've picked, am I still going to have fun sitting down and doing that? Is it something I want to do? Is it interesting? It is relentless. It's constantly there all the time. And then you've got to sit down and map out what you're actually going to talk about, right? What's the point? You know, why are you sharing this? That type of thing. Anyway, Brian Storm is saying, delighted to still be a barfly after the bank stopped my card and had to rejoin. Brian, it happens all the time, buddy. Don't worry about it. It's wonderful to have you here, and thank you, and thanks everyone for your support. It's amazing to see you hanging out with me, even over the summertime when I do disappear for breaks and things like that. Bowman 1999. Rob is saying Roy needs a break every now and then from the chaos that is the vPub. Nice to have your understanding, buddy. It really is. Let's not have too much chaos tonight. Thank you all. Thank you for hanging out with me. Let's get on with things. I'm going to put my lovely, delicious. I actually bought this 14-year-old on the back of last year's, was it an 11-year-old last year or another 14-year-old? Don't remember, I can't remember, but I was able to try a Delphi release of Benrinnes last year, and I immediately tried to buy it and it was sold out. So when they brought out this 14-year-old, I should show it to the camera again, show you what I'm talking about. And you can look at my face through the bottle there. Is that working? This one is a 14-year-old. It's a 305-258. I think this is bottle 2026, maybe 2025. I'm not sure. Let's look at the ABV. 56.2% ABV, 14-year-old Benrinnes distillery. I think this is a refill. Oh, it's really hard to read. Matured in a refill Oloroso sherry hogshead, yes, which I think is the same specs from last year's release. Tastes very, very similar. I've not done a side-by-side comparison, but when I talk about that two-bottle theme, this is one of the bottles that I went out and replaced. I took this to somebody's house. It was sealed, the previous bottle, opened it up, took a big chunk of it out that night. Everybody was loving it, despite the fact that it was really quite high ABV to be sharing, I felt, but I was loving it. I really was. And immediately went and bought another backup bottle. I don't think it's cheap. It was about 70 or 80 quid, something like that. But my point is, when you're loving something, when you're enjoying something, I think it's one of those things that you want to have on the shelf. And you want to have it there when you're in the mood for it, but you also want to have it there when you come along and try something else and you're trying to gauge how you're getting on with that whiskey. It's nice to have that very, very recent positive experience to use, certainly as a contrast and a comparator, but also as a bit of a calibrator to see how your palate is. Because if it's recent and it's on your mind and you've been loving it, that means if you sip it that night when you're trying something else and it feels the same, you know that you're kind of more objectively sipping whatever it is, the new thing. It's just one of my wee things anyway. But I did mention that tonight I was going to start by talking about world whiskies. And the reason that I'm starting by talking about world whiskies is that the vPub is always going to be focused on Scotch. I'm always going to lean towards Scotch whiskey first. That is whiskey, malt whiskey, blended whiskey, grain, any kind of whiskey that's made in Scotland first. And then obviously keep my eyes and mind open to the horizon and whatever's coming from anywhere else too. I'll forever attempt to remain as promiscuous as possible when it comes to whiskey, but my comfort zone and my love is always going to be Scotch whiskey. However, my eyes have been turned recently by a number of world whiskies coming from Japan, coming from France, coming from Ireland, coming from the United States, coming from all over the place, genuinely. But I think the one, and it's not going to be a surprise to anyone, and I'm sorry that maybe some of the things that you see tonight are going to be repeats because it's the best of 2026 so far, so you'll have already seen me hold these up on the vPub. Not all, but some of them. I think it just bears repeating, and it bears reminding people that this stuff is here and it's good. And just because something has come along that's newer than it doesn't mean it's better. it's very, very easy with a recency bias to forget what we've been enjoying. Case in point, I opened this belter very, very recently on the vPub just last week. This is the Wireworks Kuduro X. And I enjoyed it very much. You can see I've shared this one already. I've taken a fair chunk out of this bottle. It was just opened last week. But I've been keen to share it with others and get their feedback as well. And they are always surprised when I say, do you like this? They say, yeah, this is good. And I say, this is an English whiskey. And they say, really? And I like the reaction that I get from it. But that's not the one I'm going to hold up as the best of 2026 so far. I think that Kuduro X is fantastic. I genuinely do. For my taste, my personal taste, the Kuduro X does taste like exactly what it is, and that is a blend of different components from that distillery. So you actually taste something that's quite rounded. You know, the taste profile and the development is fairly shallow. There's no kind of quite searing spikes or, you know, big bass notes or anything like that. This is quite a rounded whiskey. That's exactly what you'd expect when you've got blends of various types of spirit that they make and play with and mature at that distillery. However, this is another Wireworks. This is at least my second bottle. Despite the fact that I believe this is now gone, this is just fantastic stuff. Fantastic whiskey. Right, if you know my style of whiskey, if you know my favoured spirit preferences, you'll know that the one I'm going to hold up is, of course, the Heritage Chevallier release. So this is using Heritage grain, Chevallier barley. It's 57.3% ABV, and this is unpeated Wireworks. I'm going to pour just a wee sip of this, and I'm going to try and explain to you the reason that this is up Aquavitae Street and the reason I've enjoyed it so much. It's easy to get excited about geeky things like heritage grain, floor malting, worm tubs, whatever it is, all the types of things that make us consider why we love whiskies more than others. And that makes us chase that thing in other expressions. That's exactly what happens here. There's quite a bit of alcohol pinch there on the nose. I stuck my nose right into a freshly poured nip. Fine, I need to slow down a wee bit. It's so clean, it's so bright, it's so pure with orchard fruit. There's a buttery quality to things. But what you're getting, whereas the Kuduro X is nice and rounded and bassy and soft and almost a hug-like scenario, this is precise and sharp and pure. And then what you get on the palate, I'm hoping it'll happen this evening as well. Very reassured, because I'll be honest, I've sipped quite a few of the whiskies I'm going to share with you tonight just to reassure myself. And when you're picking one over something else that I'm not going to talk about tonight, you kind of have to have a fresh idea of why you're putting it forward. This is not one that I tried. It's fabulous. And what happens is you've got this lovely mouthfeel and this texture, but it doesn't just coat your palate with oil and texture, and it's not this big gloopy thing, because there's precision there as well. There's spice, and there's a vivid sense of fruit and other complex things to draw your attention. And that's odd, isn't it? Because if you put together something like the Kuduro X, you've got all these layers of things that should add loads and loads and loads of complexity. But what can actually happen is that rather than a kind of jagged experience, you get things just a bit more filled out, a bit more rounded. It doesn't make it simple, it doesn't make it flat, it doesn't make it poor, it doesn't make it, it just changes it a little bit. What I love, and the reason that this is up Aquavitae Street, is the purity, the density, and the precision of it. And I think that's a difficult thing to articulate. It's not going to be difficult for the people that are hanging out with me in the vPub in the lounge tonight. You all know what I'm talking about. But this thing, when I'm in the mood for this, it is brilliant at it. There are other English distilleries out there doing fantastic things. Spirit of Yorkshire, Filey Bay. I'm going to struggle now. Circumstance down in Bristol, a Cotswolds distillery in the Cotswolds, funnily enough. There's umpteen, I think we're knocking on for close to 50 malt distilleries in England these days. 55, I think the number is even, maybe even more. So there's so much to choose from. What I am constantly struck by is a wee bit like what I was speaking about earlier tonight, when there's personality and a connected feeling to the brand. And I think that's down to the outreach of Richard, of the owners, of Tom Lindsay. The people behind the Wireworks brand are just so ready and connected and enthused and ready to tell you anything that you want to know about the whiskey, ready to welcome you at the distillery, ready to just share everything with you and get your feedback on it. And take it on the chin as well. Yeah, I like this better. I like this less. For me, this beats the Chevallier release, beats the bourbon cask for me, which was Peak Wireworks for me. White Peak, no pun intended. White Peak is the distillery, of course. Chevallier, the heritage release. I hope they made a lot of it with that grain. I know it's a wee bit pricier. I know there's less yield. I know it's more expensive processing thing to do. But that is, for me, for Aquavitae Street, the absolute best that I could have picked from any English distillery. And I'll go further than that and say I would have picked this out of all the world whiskies I tried this year. And I also hope that some of you guys got it as well. It's an absolute peach of a whiskey. Graham Young is saying the world whiskey could include one of those nice Canadian whiskies. It could, buddy. Do you know what I'm delinquent of? There was supposed to be a collaboration between Rob and Jeremy and I. We've just not got our finger out to do anything about it. It's not happened. And I was going to suggest that, or has been suggested, that one of the things we could do is talk about Shelter Point, talk about Two Brewers, talk about some of the Canadian whiskies that you and Gino have provided for me as gifts. I've got an entire section now devoted to Canadian whiskey. So I would use those guys to lead me. Which of these should I open? What's special about that? And do something along those lines. I need to work harder. I need to get my face into some of those lovely Canadian whiskies that I've collected over the years. Thanks to you, Graham. Thanks to you, Gino. Grace Whiskey is saying, I think that indeed the best thing to do to evangelize, like you say about your country's whiskies, is to pour them blind within Scotch choices. It's always interesting. Any Wireworks I've ever poured, but I would also go as far to say I've had the same successes with the Cotswolds and the Spirit of Yorkshire. And what I need some circumstances different. Circumstances a bit batshit crazy. It's a bit all over the place. It's a far more experimental. You know you're sipping something small batch and craft. When you're sipping the circumstance stuff typically, but the English whiskey shelf is just out of reach. Interestingly, it's got three facings of Wireworks there right now as well. I've kind of fallen for it a bit. Good to see you. Jim's in. Oh, is that that name's changed, hasn't it? But the wee icon has not. Good chance we'll be in Sheffield and then Scotland in September. Going to take the opportunity while in Sheffield to stop by White Peak. It's not that far. I think you absolutely should. I think it would be a cracking visit. I've yet to get there myself, but the feedback I get from everyone that goes is fantastic. Alistair Gray is saying that Chevallier first sip for me, similar to first sip of the Thompson Brothers Circumstance, a big wow. Take a step back and admire how blooming good that whiskey is. This is coming from a Scotsman, I should say, as well. Alistair Gray is from he might be in Spain right now, but he's from Speyside. So listen, can we just cover something? It's nice for Alistair to say that. There is a thing in retailers, and Scotland is proud of its whiskies and its massive whiskey selection, and we're all into it, and we're all drinking it and enjoying it. And it's going to be a struggle on any retail shelf if you're an English malt whiskey maker trying to sell your wares to Scottish people. That just makes sense. It's not because we're anti-English. It's not because we're horrible people, and it's not because we're open-minded. You're literally trying to sell Scotch whiskey to the Scotch people. That is it. It's not Scotch whiskey. It's English, of course, but you understand what I'm saying. So retailers are reticent to stock. They've stocked English brands in the past, and it's languished far too long. It's been a difficult sell. And you can kind of understand that. And even travelers and tourists and things that come to Scotland and visit who are much more open-minded, they're coming to Scotland to buy Scotch whiskies. So it's going to be a tricky sell. So no, when I'm positively speaking about foreign whiskies to you, I appreciate that it's going to take you a leap beyond that thing. If you love Scotch and you're all about Scotch, you're not going to be emotionally comfortable with buying something that's outside of that lane. I understand, whether you're a Scot or not. I understand. But you know the thing I always say, there's nothing that guarantees good Scotch whiskey more than good English whiskey. It's always very, very tongue-in-cheek, but I think you get my point. And I think when whiskey is made to this standard, this quality, at this price point, I don't want to care where it's from. I just want to celebrate the product. Andrew Doris saying, I wanted to stop in and say hi to you, Barfly. Sorry for not stopping in last week. I toured Cedar Ridge. Springbank's picked up in a peated American single malt, finished in Pinot Noir casks. Cheers. Good to see you, and thanks for stopping by to say hello, Andrew. And I hope you enjoy those wee sneaky pickups. Brilliant that you were able to pick it up. These single barrels. Tour Cedar Ridge single barrels, not Springbanks. Okay, still. Fantastic work. Greg is saying we have some distilleries there in France also working Chevallier barley, mind you, Le Breuil, Souligny, to name a few. I've got a couple of French whiskies down there as well. I have to say the age-dated Armorix that I have are fabulous, Greg. Is Aquavite Street in Mount Vernon? Absolutely is. It's everywhere where I've got a nice glass in my hand, wherever I'm sat. Andy else is saying, gone are the days where we evangelized about the lakes. Pity, showed so much promise. Again, they would definitely be on that unintelligibles list. It was easy to disconnect from what the lakes were doing. We saw the prices, we saw the bling, we saw the pedestal stuff, and not backed up by the quality of the liquid for the prices they were asking for. Jeffrey Bangers is saying, as we can say around Cape Cod, it's like bringing sand to the beach. It is a little bit like that, and it seems a bit rough to say that, Jeffrey, but I think you get my point. Keith McKenzie is saying, on a flight of Filey Bay tonight, I headed tomorrow night's first tasting event for their 10-year-old. Amazing. How is it going down, Keith? Are you enjoying them? And Drew from Arizona is in, had high expectations for this Wireworks Aquavite after your reaction. Unfortunately, I got more of a mandarin orange liqueur taste by itself without the people aspect. It's a 4 out of 5 for Dramface for me. That's interesting in itself. And I think that's why people like Drew's opinion is precious, because you need people to come in. Not everyone's comfortable, especially if it's a conflicting opinion. Not everybody's comfortable expressing. In whiskey, it is not only something to be comfortable about, it's something to be encouraged. We need to feel confident to articulate what we experience in the glass. Whether it's about scoring, whether it's about giving our tasting notes, even when it goes against the grain, nobody cares. It's whiskey. We get it. And it kind of helps us in the wider world to deal with things a wee bit better as well. Maybe I'm just speaking about myself. Andrew Doris built my dram. Sorry for the typo. Cedar Ridge Distillery. Fantastic, buddy. Fantastic. There's no need to buy me a dram because you made a typo. But I appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you so much. Cheers. Let's move on. We'll speak about world whiskies and some of the things that I've just mentioned a wee bit later on this evening. But I've got quite a few bottles to hold up. And in 2026, things have slowed down a little bit when it comes to new distilleries and new releases, but we still had time for a number of new things to appear. And one or two inaugurals to make a wee bit of a splash. The first one I'm just going to pick up quite quickly. I've already, I think this is the second bottle of this that I've opened. This just appeared. It was a bit of a surprise that it appeared. This is from Gordon MacPhail's The Cairn Distillery up in Speyside. Brand new distillery. This was a 3-year-old and it's age stated as such. It says 3 years old on the label. They brought out 57% and they called this one the First Peak. 50 quid, great price as well. It's everything that you expect. It's a new whiskey. It's quite young. It's quite raw. It's quite expressive in that direction. And yet there was something for me that was quite compelling. The surprise of it, the quality of it, the promise of it, all of those things that seems to be a trait that we're starting to learn. When you set up a distillery, a new distillery, and you make distillery for your whiskey, and your distillery structured around selling single malt for single malt's sake, that's very different from making just a big distillery to make efficient whiskey that you can sell bulk whiskey, and it can end up in blends and all of that. I'm trying not to be dismissive about that. That's what the industry is built on, absolutely. But I think that your focus is in very, very different horizons. And I think what we've been charmed by, maybe even seduced by from a lot of new distilleries is how wonderful their product can be at a very young age. Really quite fantastic. Even although we can still taste that there's some youth in the releases, the flavor, the engagement, the package, the value is fabulous. So I tried really hard to stop saying this is good for a young whiskey. And I tried really hard to just talk about the fact it was good whiskey. And the fact that it was a young whiskey was incidental to the package, right? Anyway, the one that I think is probably the most interesting, but also one of the most kind of safe and careful and almost giving us a sense of kind of holding the light under a bushel a little bit, was Aberargie. Because this is one of those, a bit like the Kuduro X, this is one of those, I believe, safe whiskies. Listen, it was obviously enjoyable because this is, listen, I had a friend who was really, really keen for this whiskey and he missed it. He just didn't. He's not like us. He's not like a geek. He's a bit passive, and it passed him by, and he lost. He said, "Oh, but Aberargie and things. I never got a bottle." And I said, "Try it. Here, take this." I was able to get another bottle quite easily. I have to say that this is a product that's been, it's rumored to be about 8 years old, isn't it? 48.2% ABV. But this is one of those whiskies that's been crafted. So Aberargie has actually stepped out there to try and do almost, would have be being rude if I said like a Balvenie Doublewood or something. It's just something that's going to be as pleasing as possible to as many people as possible. That mix of bourbon and sherry, the kind of lower drinkable ABV, the really quite reasonable price point. But I'm going to have another wee sip of it now because it's been a month or so since I've sipped this one. Ooh, it's lovely to do it on contrast. So there's really quite a kind of deep bassy edge to this, which I wasn't expecting first nose. In fact, I'd always go as far to say my first nose there was a nice, enjoyable wee lick of almost like cough medicine and cola cubes. I think the sherry's quite forward on this, and bear in mind I've just come to you off a very clean, pure wireworks there. Yeah, cold coffee. The fruit in this is ripe, but it moves towards red fruit. It's like plums. Sweet, ripe, still quite fresh, still quite bright, but much more kind of autumnal and dark compared to that wireworks I've been sipping. Cheers, everyone. Sips a touch warm for 48.2. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Still lots of grip and things despite the reduced ABV. But I believe this is long sold out, right? Why is Google asking me for an I'm not a robot captcha? What is going on? Have I done something wrong there? No. So it looks like, no, you can still buy this. You can still buy the Aberargie Inaugural. I can see it. The first result that came up is our friends at Royal Mill Whiskies. So you're still able to buy this stuff. That's reassuring. We are beyond the days of fighting for whiskey. And as exciting as that was, and as much of a frisson of some kind of thrill or excitement that we got out of the fact that we had ownership of something that was in demand and all of that stuff, it's a human thing. I don't judge anyone for feeling that. It's understandable. I get it completely, believe me. But it also frustrated me because it meant that a lot of the things that I wanted to share, that I want to evangelize about, that I wanted to talk about and things like that, it was suffering from the Springbank effect, right? So much of what you wanted to speak about, you couldn't speak about because it was so limited and a lot of people couldn't get their hands on it. What we started to see on the back of that was contrived scarcity. Diageo putting out 1,000 bottles of their, what was it, the Johnny Walker, I don't remember what they called it now, 1,000 bottles of a mix of Rose Isle, their biggest distillery, Cameron Bridge, their biggest grain distillery. That was the mix that went into it, but limited to 1,000 bottles sold for £1,000 each. Instant collectible, instant rarity, despite the fact that the liquid in the bottle was its most ubiquitous liquid. Really contrived, really cynical stuff going on there. Just the sense that they were just seeing how far they could push it, and it left a very, very bitter taste in my mouth. So I tended to get behind the brands that were putting out bigger outturns, as big as they could do given their capacity and size. Springbank are not doing that. Springbank are not doing contrived scarcity. Springbank are working from a position of scarcity. There's just not much of it. And that's the same for so many distilleries that we talk about today, and I'll continue to talk about tonight. There's less of that cynicism. And it's nice to have these outturns like the Arran 5-year-old Inaugural that came out 2 years ago. 2024 was that? Or could it have been as far back as 23? Could have been 23, can't remember now. But that stayed around for a long time. And it took us a while. It took a while to build that head of steam for people to realize how good it was and for it to eventually sell out from everywhere. It only sold out from the distillery, I think, just towards the tail end of last year. It was still on the shelf for a long time. Fantastic. I think that's what we're starting to see now with these inaugural releases. Let's have a wee look to see if the Cairn First Peak is still available. I don't think so. I think that could be sold out. No, there's some silly prices here. Yeah, anyway. So it's not all still available, but the Cairn came out at a very fair price, 50 quid, and obviously has done quite well. I would suggest in terms of whiskey quality, I would put the Aberargie a little bit ahead of it. The Cairn still has a kind of rough edge. It's not the type of thing that you could happily just pour for everyone, knowing that you're going to get everyone just sitting around the table and nodding. I think the Aberargie can absolutely do that. Even if it's not anyone's cup of tea, they can objectively approach it and say this is a good quality pour. Whereas the Cairn is still a little bit, there's an edge to it at 3 years old. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Aberargie for me was the best inaugural of 2026. I have to say, there wasn't a hell of a lot. It's not been like a couple of years in the past where we've just been drowned out by them. But it's nice that the two that did appear were plentiful. Just opened a bottle of Arran 14. I like it, but I'm not sure it's as good as I hoped it would be. Not as good as the 10. Oh, wow, Scott. I would put the Arran 14 ahead of the 10. No spoilers, but the Arran 14 is not going to appear this evening. It was on the list, but it was one that was quite easy to scratch off. I'm a big fan of that Aberargie, says Seb in Portugal. He's saying the great first release and hope they can keep that up going forward. Lovely quaffable stuff. We'll join you right now with a dram. fantastic. I wonder if you got any of those cough medicine cola cubes and ripe plums things going on, or was it that contrast coming from the other one? You make me comfortable sharing my opinion, Aquaviti, says Drew, even when it's a bit of an awkward take. It's pretty rare that we don't like the same whiskey. And you know, there are certain people that I know that we love the same stuff, you know, that are to the point that if they say, oh, I'm loving this, I'm immediately drawn to it and I feel comfortable. But I'm also happy to follow the lead of people that have. So if we were to use the bottle chasers as an example, we're talking about Sevy, we're talking about Scott, we're talking about Gregor. We don't have the same preferences, but Scott Monroe and I are very, very, very closely aligned with our favoured profiles. You're going to get us into something that's kind of viscous and oily and thick, of course, but we're going to want it from a bourbon cask or even a refill cask. We're going to want something that's been left alone from a certain distilleries, fruit forward distilleries, the Clyneliches, the Longmorns, the Glenburgies, the Glentochers, you know, those kind of distilleries. But of course, lots of others like the Springbacks and things like that as well. But we all share recommendations and we all trust each other. It's all gravy, as they say. Arran, probably the best inaugural release in recent years for us, says Andy and Helen. It's fantastic to hear you say that. I know we had a vPub earlier this year, talking about the best inaugurals in Arran. I don't know spoilers, but obviously it was very high up there. Brian Storm is saying our tastes are different, but personally I'd buy another bottle of Cairn First Peak before the Aberargie. It's still a cracking whiskey, excited for what comes from the Cairn. That's excellent that you enjoyed it too. For me to hold up two bottles there and tell you that I was kind of like that over both of them, and it was only through kind of just thinking about it, processing how much of it I've enjoyed over the months leading up to this vPub. I think objectively you're going to go for something that's kind of a little less. Maybe you like the Cairn because it does have that kind of youthful edge to it. Whiskey Bear Andrew saying, I find the Cairn to have put out a 3-year-old whiskey funny as recently as last September. Their pitch on the distillery tours was that they wouldn't bottle until it was a 12-year-old. Andrew, absolutely. And I think when I shared the Cairn on the vPub earlier this year, it's exactly the point I made. We were all surprised to see it. Ben is saying, my favourite bottle of 2026 so far. Excellent, Ben. This is what I want. It's the Glen Scotia Festival Edition. I've went through a lot of bottles. Great price also. We're finding this from Glen Scotia as a theme right now, whether it's a festival release, limited release, co-release, all of it is very, very fairly priced in my opinion. For the younger age stuff, once you get 18-year-olds and above, of course, it gets pretty expensive. But we're seeing this kind of really quite earnest approach from them, and it's great to see, and I'm glad that you found something with a festival bottle. Was that not a wine cask though, Ben? I think you do enjoy a wee wine cask. Remind me what the festival release was this year from Glen Scotia. Drummond Dart is saying, hey Barflies, hey Aquaviti. Good to have you in, buddy. Brilliant to have you here. Scott Monroe is a genius, Aquaviti. It's very easy to agree with him, says Jimmy Legg. We need to get Scott Monroe on a vPub. Maybe as soon as next week, Jimmy. What do you think about that? It's been a wee while. Okay, we've talked about world whiskies. We've talked about inaugurals. Let's keep the pace going. What about, and if I just did a vPub on this alone, it would be a very, very quiet vPub, right? There wouldn't be a lot of people in. But if I just talk to you about blends, it's almost a wee bit akin to me trying to get everyone excited about world whiskies. In my community, I suppose there's a bit less interest until you pour certain blends for them blind. The success that I had with Johnny Walker 200th anniversary edition over recent years has been wonderful to see. Really, people standing back and really been quite impressed by not just the quality of the liquid, but the higher ABV, the reasonable prices that eventually sold at and things like that. It was brought out for the 200th anniversary, of course, but the price, it wasn't expensive when it was launched, but it came down in price to much more reasonable prices. Wonderful to see. My favourite vPub of 2025 was the Blends vPub. I'm overdue doing another Blends visit because I discovered that Johnny Walker then. The Perpetuity, is that what it was called? The Port Leith blend was fantastic. Living Souls 15-year-old was fantastic. There's just everything. I think there was only one blend on that vPub that night that I wasn't shocked and surprised and in love with. That's super encouraging to see. However, what's happened in the year since then, I think, is that there's been such a value swing happening in single malt whiskey that there's been less appetite to put together creative, high-quality blends to try and meet that sweet spot, that price sweet spot for retail shelves, sub £50. Some people have been able to do it, and they continue to do it. Turntable is a great example of that. However, tonight, I'm going to share with you two that just wipe the floor with everything else. And I don't care if you bring in subjectivity and preferences and opinions and all the rest of it. At some point, you need to sit down and say, okay, even if it's not for me, that is objectively amazing that that can exist. And the two examples I'm going to share with you tonight came out in 2026, and they are both objectively amazing that they can exist. I'm only going to pour one of them. And as I've just, both of these bottles, I have two bottles of already. One of them, I'm nervous that it might disappear a bit quickly, but it's still available now, no stress. And the other one, because I think it's just going to be plentiful, but it's just become my number one go-to gift a bottle. The price, the flavor, the value, the impact, the weight, the viscosity, the edginess of it, the base notes, everything is there. It's a big, bold, traditional, old school Scotch whiskey, and it's unashamedly so. And it's Symington's 10-year-old. 30, 32 quid, 33 quid, 29 quid. That's the price that you're paying for this. Fully natural 10-year age statement, 46% ABV, big, bold, viscous, oily, in your face, lots of Edradour in this. Amazing stuff. Minimum age is 10 years on it as well. And just to show that I love keeping backups of this to gift to people, I think I've only got one backup just now. So I pour this for somebody, and if they say, oh, that's tasty, then at the end of the night, you've got something that you can gift to somebody. Or if you're going to meet somebody and you don't think that they've happened upon this yet, you've got something to give to them. And it's 30 quid. And they're still appreciative of it, and you can encourage them then to go on and replace the bottle. But the one I'm going to share with you and the one I'm going to get excited about tonight is the one I've been telling you for years that it would not last forever. And now they've literally put it on the label. This is the final release of Thompson Brothers TB BSW. Thompson Brothers TB BSW blended Scotch whiskey. However, this final release, it's 9 years old now. The ABV on it's down to 45% now. Listen, they don't chill filter this. Fret not. Worry not. What we've got here is a 9-year-old product. They've been releasing this over the years, and the whiskey's been getting older batch by batch by batch, but they kept it with a 6-year age statement on it. But now in the final release, they finally said this is 9 years old now, but the ABV is down at 45% ABV. This is, if you meet somebody that loves sherry matured whiskey, that style of whiskey, and even though there's a price bump on this, now that it's up to 9 years old, it's a final release, it's never going to be around it. I think it's out there at 50 quid. The TBBSW with a 6-year age statement on it, we were happy picking up for 34 quid, something of that order, just a wee nudge more expensive than Symington's 10. But this is a bit like the Edradour 10 200th anniversary, a bit like Symington's 10-year-old, if I'm honest, but there are very few things outside of that realm that give the sherry lover, sherry matured lover, that experience, that hit, fills that sweet spot for these price points. People that are sensitive, big, bold sherry casks are going to feel the sherry presence in this. There's a distant struck match. It doesn't go anywhere close to sulfur. Not for me. Maybe a wee bit of kind of, cordite, like I say, distant fireworks, struck matches, that type of vibe. But everything else is dark stewed, boozy fruit. Soft, lightly, gently spiced, ginger, chocolate themes, dark chocolate, cherries, red berries and dark chocolate. a wee bit of a kind of solventy creosote wood oil type. I'd need to sit with it, that kind of vibe. But on the palate, thick, silky, super soft, gentle, juicy, sherried, soft whiskey. The label is deliberately lo-fi, right? The label is deliberately grungy and simple. It almost makes you think, if you imagine a certain profile of people, if the label was just that little bit more polished, it would be elevated as a gift. But I think the label actually lends itself quite well to that because it's quite striking. And clearly, we're talking about something that's different. And it's quite easy to explain to friends as you gift them what that is, especially if you subscribe to some of the rumours, what's in it. Sugar Kitty's in. Good to see you, Ruby Port, I believe, on the Glen Scotia Festival. Thank you so much. Whiskey with Molly saying Ruby Port, Glen Scotia, of course. Had in my mind it was wine. Close enough. Andy Hills is saying my favourite drama of 2026 is Bamore, Shock Horror. 7-year-old Living Souls Batch 2 release. Wonderful whiskey. We're going to get spoiled by Bamore over recent and coming months. I think it's a fantastic time to be a Bamore fan. Gary Field is saying best blend for me is Symington's 10. Fantastic, Gary. I'm glad you're enjoying it as well. Scotland Roll and Sevier, just the best. Gregor, not the best. Gregor is the best. He's been having a whale of a time following Scotland in the States. He lives in the States, a wee bit easier for him. But we've been feasting on his photographs. Scott Thor is saying the new TBBSW 9-year-old is great, but I'm not sure Campbelltown Loch can be beat. Well, listen, it's very, very easy for me to rave and evangelise about Campbelltown Loch, especially when somebody can walk in and pick up something from Springbank Distillery, from a retailer, of course. The value is there, the quality is there. It doesn't matter that it varies each time. It's always going to be fantastic. But of course, on theme tonight, Scott, we're talking about the 2026 discoveries, buddy. But I wouldn't disagree with you at all. Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow saying Turntable Unplugged Noble Rebel is a whiskey I like a lot, and it's cheap at the biggest whiskey retailer here in the Netherlands. Fantastic, Harrow. It's great to see Turntable making it out there to export markets as well. Greg and Francis saying I don't hear a lot about Woven here. Would you recommend some? There's a miracle they distributed in my country. I've got a couple of Wovens actually. I don't have them on screen just now. I have the World blend that they had, and I had a smaller bottle, a 35cl or a 50cl. I'm not sure what it was. But if the prices are okay, explore. Go for it, Greg. It's very, very meticulously put together. I can say that much. Scott Thor is saying, talking to Thompson Brothers, I won the ballot for Dornoch this week. That was a good email to get. So that's obviously they're releasing, Scott. They're releasing their Dornoch malt whiskey, aren't they? That is genuinely scarce stuff. Tiny, tiny distillery. Andy Hills is saying, well, let's just put in an early parachute, catch the rest on replay. Good night, Barflies and wonderful whiskey folk. Isn't it ironic that they're much, much closer to the location, to the source now, and they're not able to participate because of their jobs like they once did. It's nice to see you, Andy. It's nice to see you, Helen. Speak to you soon. Whiskey Bear Andrews saying, my favourite blend is in my glass. Thompson Brothers North Highland Tesco 8-year-old, the Tesco style, Tesco branding, right? 8-year-old blend. Need to buy a new bottle. Is that still out there? I've got a couple over here on the shelf. This is a Thompson Brothers shelf because obviously they're my independent bottler for 2026. But glad you're enjoying that, Andrew. Glad to hear it. So there we go on blends. It's very, very easy for me to recommend those two. I think they're crackers. I think both of them are still available, very, very fairly priced too. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send out a wee email to everybody, and I think I'm going to send out I'm saying things, I shouldn't promise things that I might never get around to doing, but it might be a good idea to do a digest and just send links to everyone for these whiskies that I'm sharing, the best of 2026. So if you are curious and you are interested, you might be able to just pick your favourites, something like that. But what about our independent bottlers? What about our Indys? Because you know what? Indys do it better, right? We've started a theme on the vPub over the years, and we've done one, we've committed a vPub just to talk about all the bends, right? All the bend distilleries, but represented by Indys, and seeing how in some cases they would measure up against the official releases. And the takeaway is often that Indys do it better, but we, as whiskey geeks, we often come to realize this and know this. They have different end markets, different eyes on different horizons. And that means that the Indys can be much more precise and playful and creative and specific, whereas brands from official distillery releases has got to have a much kind of wider aspect view of things and try to play a little bit safer and follow those themes. That doesn't mean to say that we can't play in both camps. When the official distillery releases are good, I'm going to celebrate them. I'm going to talk about them loudly. Some recent releases, I talked recently about Glenglassaugh, Scapa, the new 10-year-old. There's lots of new releases coming out there from legacy distilleries, some of the newer distilleries, official distillery releases that I'll continue to talk about. Because it's actually a wee bit harder to talk about independent bottlings like that Adelphi 14-year-old Benrinnes that I opened up with tonight, because it's not going to be available everywhere to everyone all of the time. It's a transient release. It's here today, gone tomorrow, and it's only available in certain markets. And when you speak about independent bottlers, you talk more and more granular. But you can talk about them in a concept point of view. And when the independent bottlers bring along things that are creative and good and quality and affordable and interesting, I think it's nice to talk about it. My pal Glenn Duncan from Australia. Good day, Roy. Thanks for a great lunch last week. Here's my share. I win, lol. Thank you very, very much, Glenn. Yeah, I think you'll find it's me that wins. This bottle and that box over my shoulder is a 1970 vintage. First Cask, I think is the brand. Private Cellar Edition from North of Scotland Distillery. A gift from my pal Glenn Duncan from Tasmania. You're a superstar, buddy. Thank you for dropping in with a generous dram as well, Glenn. It's a pleasure to know all these friends from all the corners of this amazing whiskey planet that we live on. I'll never, ever tire of being grateful for it. Cheers, Glenn. That's excellent. I forgot what I was sipping there. There's a Thompson Brothers TBBSW. It's excellent. And I get a wee fresh mint, like literally a fresh mint leaf. Amazing. Lolly's going to hate this. Well done, says Jimmy Legg. No, I don't hate it at all, Glenn. That's wonderful, wonderful stuff. Okay. So Indys continue to show their thing. And I think what's really creative about it now is that they're now in the middle ground about those two camps that I'm talking about. We've started to see Indys bringing, and we dedicated a vPub to this movement, if you like, this evolution. Indys bringing out core ranges. So we think about Symington's 100 proof series. I mean, it's constantly topped up by newer and newer edition numbers, new evolutions, new releases. But these are big outturns. Look at Little Brown Dog with their 12-year-old Glengarry, with their branding on it. Little Brown Dog with a 12-year-old local distillery to them. Fantastic liquid as well. But the one that I've chosen to share with you tonight, and again, we've got that kind of 2-bottle thing going on. I didn't get a second bottle of this one that I'm going to hold up, but I've got the other two, and I just bought the other two because one of them I had tried and loved, and the other one I've not tried yet, but we can sort that soon enough. We've got Woodrose with their Jane Street releases. These are independent bottlings. We've got here the smoky one, the sherry one, and here we've got the original one. Okay, there's nothing particularly groundbreaking about the nomenclature, about the concept behind it. We've got ex-bourbon, we've got a very spirit-driven one here and the original one. Then we've got a sherry-forward one here. And then we've got a smoky one here. So what we've got in this range is the cornerstones, the bookmarks, the bookends, if you like, of the kind of whiskey flavour map. Fantastic idea, fantastic concept. This is rumoured to be a Diageo Islay distillery from the south coast of the island, but on the back there's a wee teeny transparent sticker that just says Secret Islay. I don't know if that's focused for you to be able to see that. I think so. And that's the only clue of what this is. But it's also got a batch number on there. So we can, if you're buying it in the flesh off the shelf, you can have a wee look and see what it is. Online purchases is going to be a bit more tricky. I would like to see the online retailers actually tell us what batch it is. It's up to them. This one, I don't think this is the original batch. This was purchased much more recently. I bought this 2 or 3 months ago now. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the sticker on this one. It's going to be much harder to read. It's just under my finger there, but I can tell you it says O1.1. I think it says O1.1, S1.1 maybe actually. Yes, S1.1. And it says Annandale under it. So it actually tells us the distillery for each of these individual batches. The reason that I bought this, my second bottle of it, and in fact, I have bought another bottle of this for a very, very specific reason from Good Spirits Company. It's waiting for me to collect it. This one I have managed to get through an entire bottle of. I hope I didn't check the batch number, but it might zoom in there and focus to let you know that this is Glencadam. Now, there's no age statement on the Jane Street series, but they are presented fully natural at 48.5% ABV, which matches the price point. It's about 48 quid. Some people are doing it a wee bit less. You shouldn't be paying more than £50 for these releases. So much in the same vein as, what would you call them? The Equinox and Solstice releases, for example, from Decadent Drinks. The previously mentioned 12-year-old Glengarry from Little Brown Dog, that type of thing. That retail sweet spot of somewhere in the order of round about £50. Obviously, the closer you can get to 30, the better. But 50 up to about £60, that retail sweet spot, if they can meet that, it's a much, much easier thing for the people and the specialist retailers and online retailers to be able to shift. I hope this. What I'm expecting is apple orchard, tinned peaches, really quite sweet, easy drinking, delicious, pure, simple, straightforward Glencadam. A wee bit like Glencadam's 10-year-old, but with a little bit more intensity and a little bit more purity. That's what my experience with the previous bottle was. Let's see if we've got the same with this one. Immediately, tinned peaches, tinned apricots on the nose. Fantastic. Not sickly sweet, but definitely syrupy and fruity sweet. Wee bit of sweet citrus as well. It's really quite zesty, quite orange rind. Wee bit of effervescence on the nose even. This is exactly the same batch, or it's exactly the same style and profile. There's a creaminess too, along with that effervescence. Weird that I can talk about this. Creaminess and effervescence, really, but absolutely, it's almost like a sweet kind of popping candy type vanilla fondant and popping candy type nose. A malty, grainy, gristy, almost slightly creamy, porridgey grain note in the background as well. But the thing that hits you is the sweet, fizzy, bright, sweet fruit and vanillas. Let's have a wee sip. Just fabulous. Nailed it. I think it's the same batch. So good, so clean, so easy, so bright. This is the type of thing. It's paler than white wine, right? It's super, super pale whiskey. This is a type of whiskey that you pour for somebody and you talk to them about the stone fruits. You talk to them about the profile and sweetness and the creamy vanilla fondant and the Can they pick up any of that effervescence, even at 48.5% ABV? And hopefully they start to see why bourbon cask, spirit forward, more simple, less wood-driven whiskies can be so appealing, so moreish, so desirable. This is fantastic. Now I'm relieved. I was confident about holding this up as a recommendation. When I saw the batch on the back, I wished I'd kept the previous bottle. This is O 1.1, so O must be for original, S must be for sherry. So I would imagine that the other one has got, is it I for Isla? No, it's P. For some reason, the smoky one's got a P on it. Pete. I imagine it's Pete. But yes, 1.1 Glencadam. It says on the back label, it's 50 quid's worth of whiskey all day long. It's just great drinking whiskey. And if they're able to put that out there at that sweet spot and have an outturn that's massive enough for people to engage with it, fantastic. The Indys are not only continuing to do what they've always done, as good as they've always done it, with the, you know what I always say about it, it's amazing what Indys can achieve with how little they have, despite how little the industry achieves with how much they have, right? It's the Indys are always kind of right there, forefront and center. Yes, it's smaller scale and it's a smaller audience and all of these great things. It's much more specialist. We understand all the things that make it, I suppose, a little bit easier for them, but they do things very well, and it comes from a position of expertise, passion, love for the product, and the fact that you're only as good as your last release, I suppose, right? Super, super delicious, guilt-free, enjoyable drinking whiskey. Good evening, says Roy and all the Barflies. Good evening to you, Ginger Genius John. Always brilliant to have you here, my friend. I like hanging out with you, fella. How you doing, Greg and Francis? Yeah, right. French Indys are getting stronger too. Some interesting stuff out now. More later on, Aquavita, and please check out the replay for more. You missed a comment proposal of mine. I do apologise, Greg. It's hard for me to keep up a wee bit. I'm definitely not ignoring you, my friend, as you know. BV Van der Hulik. B. Van der Hulik. Let's go for that. Wish we had an importer in the Netherlands bringing in Jane Street. No luck so far. And I know I have to be mindful about that. But as I said, when I talk about Indys, it's difficult because of that dynamic. However, when we talk about Indys, we can talk about it in a conceptual sense. And if you are going to happen across a range of Jane Street, you've got a choice. You know, I've not got to grips with the sherry one yet, but the smoky one is an absolute no-brainer to recommend. It's beautiful stuff, much in the same way I'm enjoying this Glencadam, but with a smoky edge to it, coastal edge to it, salinity, light white and blue, clean smoke. But that Glencadam, despite the fact I bought the smoky one before the original one, I got through the original one so much quicker. I hope that makes sense. Oh, let's jumped. Sorry. Adrian Hannah's in. Good to see Adrian. Interesting that it's at the same price as the OB Glencadam 10. Is there much difference? I would say I've not tried them side by side. I think what we have is that concept of the Glencadam 10 being a little bit more kind of rounded. And I mean, the Glencadam 10 is just one of my favorite ever and official bottlings. It's got everything I've described on this, I would say, the Glencadam 10, and they are very, very, very similar. I think what we've got on this is only a touch more ABV, 48.5 as opposed to 46. Fine. What this is non-age statement, whereas the Glencadam 10 has that 10-year-old age statement on it. What you've got with this one is maybe a little bit more purity, a little bit more sharpness, just a touch less rounded, I suppose you could say. But that's me doing it purely from my memory of Glencadam 10. I could just grab Glencadam 10 and try side by side, but I think I'm going to end up dirtying 8 glasses tonight as it is, buddy. It's nice to have you in, Adrian. Cheers. Love the stuff. Okay, the Indys do continue to show the way, but what about the official releases? What about official distillery bottlings? We've had a fair amount in the year to date so far. There's constant new releases coming out, extensions of existing brands, new brands, rehashes, brand new releases, re-releases of things long gone, such as the Arran 14 that's already been mentioned. The Arran 14 is not going to get mentioned tonight. I made my final ever prediction at the start of the year on the vPub that we would get Arran 14. It finally landed. But I remember saying at the start of the year, I remember saying, look, I really hope this is going to be kind of refill, spirit-driven, a little bit like this, a little bit like the whiskey that I love, the thing that drew me towards some of the original Arran 14 batches back in the day. However, what we have in the modern Arran 14 is a fantastic, well-made, excellent whiskey. Bourbon, first fill bourbon, and Palo Cortado is a little bit more wood forward, a little bit sweeter, a little bit more mass market, a little bit more modern whiskey in style. And I feel that that's been safe. I think it's an intelligent, wide market release. I'm confident and I hope it's successful for Arran. But I think I wanted it to be a little bit more raw, a wee bit more edgy, a wee bit more purity, clean, sharp, bright. I don't mind that raw kind of sweet orange Arran backbone in there, the cordial thing that I always get, the orange squash, you might say, depending on where you're from. Or I don't mind that in there at all. In fact, when it's laid bare and I can see that character comes from Arran spirit rather than cask that it goes into, that's really quite exciting for me. The Arran 14 was a step away from that. Not a step away in quality, not at all, but a step away in my preferences. But some official bottlings did make it into the lineup tonight, and one of them is an Arran. Can you guess which Arran it is? I'm going to leave it lying on its side. I have put here a bottle, an official bottle, with an age statement on it from Arran Lochranza Distillery, from Isle of Arran Distillers. See if you can guess what I think has just been. To be fair, I bought this at the end of 2025. I was very happy with it. I quite liked it. But it's the first half of 2026 that I've fallen in love with it. Joey's saying, followed an Ardnamurchan cast strength with a Springbank cage bottle Aquavitae, same ABV. Ardna was a glass of water in comparison. Springbank just explodes out of the glass. Jimmy, you don't ever need to. I'm just excited that you continue to try it. An Ardna cast strength against a cage bottle, I'm not sure that's a fair fight. Ardna cast strength is a big outturn. Cage bottles are individual cask samples, basically, right? Maybe not these days. Obviously, they're doing it a bit more efficiently. They're just bottling casks and things now for the cage, but they are still curated things. Daisy is saying, evening, Roy, Aquavitae and Barflies, back in the Netherlands for one day, and I want to go back to the Highlands. Because you're melting. Listen, it's pretty hot in the Highlands, Daisy. It was nice, brilliant to see you ever so briefly while you were here. But yeah, it's going to be a lot cooler than the temperatures that you're seeing over there. And I think that our infrastructure here, in maybe continental Europe generally, Northern Europe, Western Europe, Southern Europe, they're more kitted out for this kind of climate. In North America, they're kitted out with air conditioning and buildings that are built differently. Our buildings are built to retain heat, and it's murder in the hot summer. Whisky Weekend Dram Harrow is saying local barley, 10-year-old, amazing stuff, and agree. Barley, Arran, Gerben is saying that. Who else is saying it? Arran Barley from Lassie here. Oh, it's been good to see you in Lassie. Local barley, no doubt. And I think that is, they've not used the words local barley, but absolutely, you've all nailed it. We are talking about Arran's 10-year-old Arran Barley. Listen, I'm not sure if this is still available now. I hope that it's available for you guys to pick up. I hope it's still hanging around. I've got 4 clean glasses left. I've got 4 Capitas. I want to do a wee comparison there. I don't think I need to do a comparison there. So I think I've got a clean glass in order to pour myself a wee bit of, weirdly, strangely, the casking of this, the arrangement of the casks on this should make us feel like it's a little bit similar in concept to their 10 or their 14 or their various, but this feels much more Arran-like in character. It feels a little bit more spirit forward. It feels a little bit more precise. I keep using that word, don't I? And a little bit more kind of pure. I keep using that word as well. Immediately, I'm looking for, of course, Arran is like got that concentrated orange thing. But also, if you've ever taken a sweet citrus like a satsuma or something, and you've cracked the skin, and you get that sweet, zesty, and almost kind of slightly bitter note with a bit of the skin, the waxiness, the pith that's inside as well. It's very sweet, but it's also very fresh. Citrus, orange. Now, I have to say, it only happens once in a blue moon, literally, but I was doing a blind tasting in a room in front of 120 whiskey folk with David Stark for the Independent Spirits Festival this year. And this is one that I was actually able to pick out blind. And it was based on that orangey quality, and it's here. At 60 quid a bottle, this was by far the cheapest in the lineup on that blind. This is the best Arran. This is the best Arran. You would need to be going into significant age statements, limited, smaller releases, much more expensive to get this quality. And it's so subtle. It's so subtle. It's so... It makes it almost difficult to explain why this is a step above the other releases, why this is so good. What is it about this? But I put it to you that it is so good that I, especially not just about price or anything, I would buy this over the 14-year-old every single time. There's a malt quality to it, almost like if you've ever had like a malted drink. If you've ever enjoyed Maltesers, the candy that we get in the UK, you soak the chocolate off the outside. You're just left with a malty bit in the middle. It's kind of reminiscent of that. The sweetness is so Moorish sweet. It's not sickly. It's not heavy. It's just a precise, delicate, elegant, textured. This is like almost the essence of Scotch whisky. If you sit with it long enough, add a wee bit of water, you're going to get other wee edges, other wee... It's just... This is the best Arran. This is the best Arran. So good. So what am I going to use the other Capita for? Well, I was fortunate to get one of these packs that come through, and I didn't ask for it, I didn't send away for it, and I didn't pay for it, but it was nice to get what Bruichladdich were telling us was a pre-glimpse, a sneak peek at releases for their 25th anniversary of their Renaissance, the Bruichladdich Renaissance in 2026. And what they talked about was, look, we're not going to tell you what these things are, but these are pre-samples of what we're going to release throughout the year. The product development has already been done, and this is what we're releasing. Your feedback would be appreciated. I never gave them my feedback directly, but I definitely enjoyed sipping those 3 samples. There were 10 CLs of each bottle. I got to try them, and I took them down to Campbelltown Malts Festival with me this year and opened them in the house, and I shared them with Sevi and Rolfie, Ebhead, who's often in the vPub, and we just sipped them together. I already had my opinion on each and every one, but I stayed quiet and I wanted to hear their opinion on each of them. And I was so excited about the year ahead from Bruichladdich and so nervous about what the charge was going to be for the cost in order to own these whiskies. Let me tell you what they were. Herben is saying, oh, sorry, but I did pick that one up, buddy, and you nailed it, hit the nail on the head. Hebtime is saying, 16 degrees and thunderstorms here today, jumpers on. So he's up in Skye. That's my pal Gordon. How are you, big guy? I think that we are due to get those thunderstorms overnight, which means I need to do a wee bit of housekeeping before I go to bed tonight and go around shutting all the windows that we've tried to keep open to ventilate the house. I hope it's brief and you get some blue skies back again soon. Harrow is saying Arran is pretty local, so it is local barley. Of course, it is their local barley, but instead of them calling it Arran 10 local barley, they've called it Arran 10 Arran barley for some reason. Greg is saying, love the Arran 10 barley lot, Roy. So delicate. I prefer it to the 10 and others. We are agreeing on that. Is there much sherry in the mix? You know, I should look that up, Jimmy. I really don't think there is. It does not taste like there is at all. Distilled, matured and bottled in Scotland, Isle of Arran distillers. It doesn't tell us on the thing. It did come in a tube. It probably told us, oh no, here we go. It's something on the bottle. Local barley, grown in the south end of Arran. Optic is the barley type. This is batch 1, bottled in 2025, 18,000 bottles. No, it doesn't tell us, but I believe it was a mix of bourbon and refill sherry. Let me see if our friends at Whiskey Base can help. Jimmy, I know you can do this while you're watching along, but I think it's nice for me to be able to actually flesh it out and apologise for the fact that I didn't do it in advance. Arran barley. First fill bourbon and second fill sherry. So yes, I was right, but there's no indication of the proportions there. For me, there's the slightest hint of sherry influence. It is so quiet that you're not going to pick up on it. You're not going to be distracted by it. And if somebody was to tell you this was just a refill hoggy, or this is refill bourbon, or a mix of refill and first fill bourbon, you'd be quite happy sipping it. I hope that helps, Jimmy. It's fantastic. I get quince off Arran and only off Arran. Now, I wonder if your quince is my sweet citrus. Clit's to saying, I did enjoy the Arran barley, but my impression of it was hampered by the fact that I tried it side by side with the Ardnamurchan Heritage barley for the first time, and I adore that Arran. Now, it's very, very interesting, Clitston, we discussed this about when we talk about blind lineups and tasting lineups in general, that we have to be very, very careful when we're picking out a lineup, because sometimes one whiskey can make another one show better or worse by sipping in contrast. But we just have to roll with it. And I am not going to disagree with you one iota on that Heritage barley from Ardnamurchan either. If we talk about specific purity on a whiskey as well. Pedro is in as well. Pedro, my pal from Brazil. Another pal from Brazil. Catch up on replay, Barflies. Akuvite, wish you all an amazing weekend. Thank you so much, buddy. Thanks for dropping in. Bud Jenkins is saying, just as it jumped, Bud is saying, I only wish you could express a little bit of enthusiasm during your sampling of these drams. It is a blast watching you. Yeah, I only get excited when I'm genuinely enjoying something, right? Andrew Pierce is saying, Jimmy Legg, they say on their website, there's a similar composition to the standard 10, but it definitely comes across more bourbon cast forward. I would agree, absolutely, Andrew. It's a little bit more kind of clean and spirit forward, less sherry cask getting in the way, or less wood influence getting in the way, I would say. Drummond Dart is saying first full bourbon barrel and second fill sherry. I didn't need to do it because of obviously you guys are going ahead and doing it as well. But there is one I want to share with you. I want to talk to you about that tasting pack, because the first of the Bruichladdich samples, the sneak peek, the pre-release, whatever you want to call it, I received, turned out to be a 50% ABV sample, because it was the 10-year-old old school. Now, this is sold out now. I managed to pick up a second bottle before it all disappeared, and it's just as well, because I ended up needing it. I didn't get the opportunity to be able to stash it for posterity. It's gone now, but it went to a friend who didn't get the old school and really wanted a bottle, and he's got it now, and there's a trade involved, and all that's very, very good. The Old School is a fantastic whiskey for 10 years old. I think I opened it in a vPub. 50% ABV, as I say, 700 ml bottles for the world. It's ended up going really quite quickly. The middle one came out. And while I knew I was sipping the Old School, I had no idea what the middle sample was and the final sample. The middle sample has now been revealed, and I slept on it. Despite the fact I knew it was fantastic, I didn't appreciate just how quickly these would actually sell out. It would seem that there are still bottles that are in demand, and there's going to be a clamour for them. And of course, those bottles are going to come from the distilleries that are still popular. If you look at the Dramface Top 40, if you look at the vPub results, the Oswaz results, all of these things, Bruichladdich is held in high regard. But this was Yellow Submarine, or the 2026 release of Yellow Submarine. And just look at how bright that bottle is on screen. This is a 14-year age statement on this one. It's a really nice homage to the whole kind of WMD, weapons of mass destruction, or whiskies of mass distinction, all of that kind of playfulness that they came out with way back in the day. And they've had various batches to come along since. But this one was at 54.2% ABV and betrayed immediately, and it's since been revealed by Bruichladdich that the second in the lineup of the sneak peek sample pack was indeed Yellow Submarine. Why did I sleep on it? Why didn't I just go out and buy it? Because I thought that I would just wait till it landed in Good Spirits Company and go in and pick it up. I didn't think, I was naive. I didn't think there would be that much of a scrum for it. I had tried it. I knew the try before you buy was there. Anyway, a friend who's in here tonight, she was traveling Scotland. She was visiting the distillery. She took a photo. She sent it saying, there's yellow bottles here. Would you like one? And I said, yeah, I'd love one. Can you mule one back for me? And that's exactly what happened. No glug. No glug. So this Yellow Submarine is 14 years old, as I say, 54.2% ABV. It's not cheap. It's 100 quid for this 14-year-old bottle of whiskey. This is quite a bit more expensive than Arran's 14-year-old, right? However, I know as long as this bottle lives up to that sample that I enjoyed, as long as it's the same liquid, I don't feel like I'm going to feel cheated paying 100 quid for this liquid. Complete step change on the nose. Takes me right to, it takes me, there's a watery, I suppose we're going to go coastal here, but it's not a salinity, it's like a wet rock thing. Wet rocks, it's kind of, there's a muddiness, but there's bags of red fruit. Not grapes, maybe kind of great raisins, but more kind of berries. There is a coastal quality. It is a wee bit saline. It is coastal. There is a colour to this whiskey, and I bet you it doesn't show up on camera. If I get anything white, you know, I should always just have a wee piece of white card or something. I've got Charlie MacLean's book. It's kind of white. No, there's no way you can see it. But I'm telling you here, under my lights here, there is a kind of a copper, pinkish, reddish hue, almost like the highlights are suggestive that there's a bit of wine cask, bit of port cask, something like that in here. Doesn't nose like that. Maybe the red fruits could be from that, but it's not particularly winey. It's coastal, it's fruity, it's malty, but there's an elegance here. The ABV brings a nice bit of boldness too. You kind of know there's a weight to this. This is one of those whiskies I think you could nose this at this blind, and you could be all over the place for a wee while. So you're always looking for that Bruichladdich edge. You're looking for that slightly, it can express a lactic edge. But this is clean Bruichladdich that we're sipping here. If it's here, you would need to be very, very sensitive to it and be sipping in something with something in contrast to bring it out. I'm not picking it up tonight. Having said that, just that wee whiff there, you can convince yourself that it's there. It's not off-putting to me in the slightest. In the past, I've had some that have really been off-putting, not just at Bruichladdich. I've had Bladnicks in the past, Bushmills in the past, other things in the past that I simply couldn't sip because of it. But this one is superb. Cheers, everyone. Slightly drier edge, slightly more acidity in this. A step outside of what we've been sipping so far. Lovely, clean. Like a slightly sour and acidic edge in a very good way. Almost like a kind of, not Granny Smith greener, but maybe gooseberry, something a wee bit green. Drying on the finish. Soft, gentle spice, white pepper, that type of thing. Another wee sip. It's like a fruit thing, but it's like I'm drawn to green. I'm drawn to kind of green gauges, gooseberry, things that we don't eat often. But it's that kind of that lovely, nice, acidic, slightly bitter edge to things. It's one of those, like I said, I mentioned earlier. It's quite difficult to articulate or express what makes it so good. What means that I was confident picking this out, or uncorking a bottle to tell you it's the best of 2026. It's weird, isn't it? Well, it was easy with the Jane Street, just hoping it was the same batch. It's easy with this Bruichladdich 14-year-old Yellow Submarine, just hoping that it's the same as the pre-release sample that I had. The giveaway, the spoiler, the thing I'm going to say that's going to cause you FOMO or that type of thing is the third item in that pack. It could be the best Bruichladdich I've ever sipped. It was stunning. It tasted like it had age. It tasted like it was refill forward. It tasted elegant. It tasted luxurious. It tasted special. And I've got no idea what it is. I've got no idea what it is. But Bruichladdich are supposedly releasing the third of that pack during 2026. And I can't wait for it. And I hope that there's enough of them out there, and I hope that I'm able to afford it. I suspect potentially not. Hjalpin is saying it does have wine cask, 25% second fill Bordeaux red wine. It's very lightly well used. It's not obvious. It's integrated. There's a steady hand at Bruichladdich right now. The precision, the balance that they're bringing to the releases, the creaminess and the weight of the silky 10-year-old, the purity of it. That 18-year-old Redefine is just an absolute specimen, an exemplary example of balance in whiskey. And this is in very much the same vein as that. This doesn't have quite the same elegance or maturity as the 18. Obviously, it's 4 years younger, but it's very close. £100. And I'm going to be very happy enjoying it going forward. I really am. So, whether it's world whiskies, whether it's blends, whether they're inaugurals, whether it's official releases or the creativity of Indys, 2026 has already been another year of us being spoiled by where do I go, what do I spend my money on, what do I buy. I think it's a great idea for me. I've never done this before because I'm really not trying to sell whiskey. I don't get the only thing I get a commission from is when I do a collaborative bottling. So the Loch Lomans, the Ardnamurchans of the past, the Daftmill, the Ardnose, the Glasgow, the Smögen, these bottles I get paid a commission on, right? And you don't tend to hear me selling them. I hope you don't feel like I'm selling them heavily to you. I think I should be. I genuinely think I should be. I don't stop the vPub halfway through in order to talk about our sponsor. I don't stop and put an ad timer on for you to sit through an ad for 90 seconds or whatever it may be. You know what I don't do? I don't even show ads before or after the vPub. They are switched off. Google and I do not split ad revenue for any of the content that goes out because of all the beautiful barflies that step up and click that join button. As a member, it means I never need to go cap in hand to Google for ad revenue. So I don't split any revenue with retailers. I don't do affiliate links. I don't do sponsorships. I don't do partnerships. I just don't do any of that. I want to be able to meet you in real life and look you in the eye and shake your hand and talk about the recommendations that I make and talk about how honestly and earnestly a place that they've come from. However, I also think that I take that too far because when I do these collaborative bottlings, I think I'm a little bit shy about them. I think that I've been a little bit reserved and I haven't been as enthused about some of the bottlings that I've released in the past. The Daftmills, the Ardnose, the Loch Lomans, the Ardnamurchans, the Glasgow, and the Smögen. We went large scale. We went 500 to 600 bottles on the 2 recent releases, and they're still out there now. There's not a hell of a lot of the Glasgow left, and once that's gone, everybody's going to nod sagely and talk about how the 8-year-old Aquavitae fully exclusive bourbon Glasgow was the best Glasgow they tasted. I know I'm going to hear this. Do you know why I know I'm going to hear this? Because I hear it about the Ardnamurch and I hear it about the Loch Lomans. And when these things sell out and they're not available anymore, they become more and more loved. It's crazy the way the human mind works, but it works like that. And I know that it does because it happens for me as well. But the Glasgow is still available. And the last whiskey I'm going to share with you tonight, not only am I going to tell you that it's still available and I'm going to sip it with you here now, but I'm going to tell you I've been sipping this throughout 2026 and it is probably the most compelling whiskey I've sipped, and it's one that I was involved in releasing. Doc, Macallan Fine and Rare was there, Aaron McFault was there, Rolfie was there. We were all there together, sipping the whiskey, and my friend, who I trust his palate more than so many others, Stefan Novak, was there, along with Per Caldenby. We prayed and we prayed and we prayed that this product, you can see the bottles over my shoulder here, would come out as good as it has, and it has come out that good. If you were to say to me, Roy, what's your whiskey of the year for 2026 so far? Do you judge me that I would pick one that I bottled? Would you say, oh, wait a minute, that's you being, that's like asking Julie Hamilton and she picks a Decadent Drinks, or asking Scott Adamson and he picks a Kuboken or a Tomatin? That's not, sorry, it's different. Because I'm sipping so many whiskies all the time, and I'm sipping this alongside the best of the best, and it stands up and it shouts loudly and it's like nothing else. The problem this has, it's not Scotch whiskey. It's in a 50cl bottle and it's 80 quid. The trust that I'm asking from people was going to take quite a step, but I went for it. And when I sip this whiskey, I have zero regrets. And do you know how confident I am? I've got 2 clean Capitas left. And I'm going to pour this in contrast with something I haven't even opened yet, but I'm already confident that it's going to be a monster of a whiskey for this thing to go up against. I'll put this in the Aquavitae glass. There's a reason I'm picking this whiskey, not just because I'm putting it up against the best of the best, but because of some other traits that they share. Density, quality, flavour, integrity, earnest presentation, all of that. It's also a very, very rare whiskey. Not as rare as a Smögen, but very difficult to get your hands on. Let's see if you can guess what I'm going to put that Smögen up against tonight. Falscraft is saying Adam Hannett. Bruichladdich talking about learn from a real master and has become one himself. They do produce great stuff. Bruichladdich just sometimes a bit pricey, but rarely overdone on that end. I'm impressed by how good the affordable stuff is, class. I really am. I'm hoping that Bruichladdich and I can get together to do a wee bit of a collaboration in the future. That would be great fun. David Hong in New York, thank you so much, buddy. You always drop in. You never leave a comment, but you always leave a very, very generous drama, friend. Cheers to you. This is not the Smögen that's in the glass that I'm sipping right now. I'm still on the Arran Barley for this, but cheers to you. Jimmy Legg has bought me a wee drum to say, Andy just sat a huge glass of wine beside my whiskey. I guess she's here for the rest of the show. She says hi. Well, I suppose Angie, can judge whether or not I'm selling tonight. But I need to get behind the projects that I'm involved in, and I need to talk about them a bit more confidently, right? I am independent. I think the world knows that I'm independent now. It's okay to be enthusiastic, even if it's something that has your name on it. The only pressure we feel to buy Barfly releases is because we know it's going to be good. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you for your trust. B. van der Hulik is saying, is that third Bruichladdich release peated? Which one are you talking about, Bart? Which one? Third Bruichladdich release? Not sure. You're maybe not talking to me there, buddy. I'm not sure. Smögen, Swedish Aquavite, bottle pick, wonderful. Ben Demon Hunter is saying, oh, awesome. Okay, did you not know about it? See, this is why I'm a wee bit worried, Ben, because I'm not expressing it, because I'm selling it directly to followers and patrons, and I'm not talking about it widely in the vPub. It doesn't get the same, and it's not fair. Whiskey Bear Andrew is saying, be proud of your releases. We love them. Your lack of confidence is endearing, Aquavite. Don't ever change. I know the confidence is there. Don't get confidence conflated with me trying to be deliberately humble. Humility is something I have to strive for. The third sample from your pre-release set. Okay. No, none of them were peated, buddy. None of them were peated. All in. Okay, it's me we're talking about here. It's me. To my palate, I'm super confident, and I sipped it with Sevi and Rolfie, they would have picked up peat. No, there's no peat in the third one. Annabelle, anyone get bent corks with their Smögen? Oh, okay, no issues with the liquid and fabulous whiskey. Just curious, Aquavite. That's the first I've had any report back about any kind of bent corks. Super tight and secure. The wee Smögen lighthouse on the top as well. Wonderful to see. Anyway, what do you think I'm going to compare it with? What am I going to compare it with? If you were to say, what is the pinnacle? What is like the best contemporary whiskey that everybody is clamoring for and everybody wishes they could get their hands on? What am I going to compare it against? What am I going to sip it alongside? And I'm not suggesting that it has to be better. I'm not suggesting that it's going to be the same as. I'm suggesting that it has to be able to go toe-to-toe with when it comes to flavour, density, compelling whiskey in the glass. I'm very happy for you to be able to have Aquavite bottlings. Very happy indeed, Ben. Thank you so much, my friend. Ben is saying I've held off. It's the only Aquavite bottle I hadn't bought, and I just ordered it. Buddy, I wish I would have been more, if I'd known that, I'd have been more than happy to give you some before you ordered it. But trust me, buddy, I should have said your lack of reason to be confident. Yes. Thank you, Jimmy. Scott Thor is saying, could be a Lafroig then. No. Falscraft saying Bruichladdich under the name will not be peated Aquavite. Peated stuff is Port Charlotte or Octomore. I agree. Absolutely. B.D. van der Hulik is saying, Harrow was worried about your peat blindness. Thanks. I do suffer from it, and everybody needs to know that I suffer from it. It was so reassuring to be able to do that blind tasting with Roddy, but I think he was maybe affected by my peat blindedness. Or maybe I have house aromas or something that's in my home here that means that anybody that comes into the house might suffer from the same. But honestly, at the Whisky Club and at festivals and things, we all kind of talk about this. It's a well-known thing. Time to set the vPub up on the background. Going to be watching the match. Thank you all for keeping me awake. Slancha, thank you for being here. Harrow, see you next time. Springbank 18 says, Klitz, you're getting close. Drum and Dart is saying Springbank 12 cask strength, 100% ex-bourbon. Drum and Dart comes in and he nails it. How did I manage to get a hold of Springbank 12 cask strength? The brand new release, 56.6% ABV, just out. I took the tissue off this tonight. This is from the Good Spirits Company. And I literally walked in as Matthew was putting one bottle on the shelf, alongside a 10-year-old and a Kilkerran bourbon cask or something like that as well. And I just said, I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I said, can I buy that? And he said, well, it's on the shelf. And I picked it up. It doesn't always happen. I'm very, very, very fortunate. I do have other Springbank 12-year-old cask strengths on the shelf. I have not all the batches, not even close to all the batches, but spotty batches over the years. I've been able to pick them up and I've been able to share them with you over the years. And it's always a buy on site. This is Springbank. And its most intense and dense form, 12 years old, cask strength. For me, it's often sherry leaning, and there have been very few. I can only recall one, a 55.5% ABV that was 100% bourbon in the past. This 56.6 is also, we believe, 100% ex-bourbon. So when we talk about comparing that little Smögen to something, if we talk about me feeling confident, and I know you're not all sitting sipping this with me, of course I'm going to play act in front of you and tell you whatever the best is, and there's no way I'm going to tell you that the Smögen is anything other than amazing. But can it really stand up to something as bold and as dense and as heavy and intense as a floor malted 12-year-old cask strength Springbank? The ABVs are very similar. 55% on the Smögen, my vanity ABV for reasons that we can discuss. 56.6 on the Springbank. Only 2 years difference as well on age. Springbank is ever so slightly peated. The Smögen is ever so lightly peated. The Smögen is using 100% Golden Promise barley, and it's 10-year-old Golden Promise barley. That's rare. It's so rare because that needed people back in 2015, 2016 to be confident enough to use heritage grains and make it away back then. And not many people were doing it. We know that Arran was doing it with their local barley. Optic they were using. This is Golden Promise. This is an ancient barley, post-war barley, and that was used right across the industry post-war, up until the 60s and 70s. Some, like Macallan and Glengoyne, other Edrington distilleries, and a few others, kept a hold of it for a little bit longer, but it was long gone. And one of the biggest step changes in whiskey production over the years was that step change that we saw. And everybody talks about the flavour of Golden Promise, but they always talk about the mouthfeel and the texture as well. Anyway, let's dive in. Oh, okay, I've not had much in the way of peaty whiskey tonight, clearly, because I'm getting peat from Springbank. I would never expect to get smoke from it. It's fresh, neck pour. It's only smoke in the softest, most savoury sense. Right. I don't care. I just don't care. What's the worst that can happen? People call me out and say, look at this guy. Right. There's no way one of these whiskies is going to be better than the other because they're so different. One is literally made, every single point of the process in the Smögen whiskey is done by one man's hand. Literally every drop, everything from rousing the mash to standing over the thing as it distills and filling the cask, that half a cask a day that they make at Smögen, that they fill at Smögen. Everything is tiny. Springbank is very much the same. This is the last bastion of everything being done with as many hands as possible and still being able to make 250,000 litres per year across all their brands. Is still tiny. Smögen make about 1/8 of that, maybe less. Okay, I don't know which one to sip first. The Smögen for me is coming across bright and sherbet tonight. So that's got that fizz, that effervescence. There's a very, very clean salinity to it. But what is the most expressive thing is this wonderful kind of sweet fruit and a bready quality. The fermentation room comes forward here, and it's sweet bread. It's almost going into pastries and Madeira cake. Yellow, bright fruit. On the Springbank, things are a bit moodier, a bit darker, a bit more autumnal and mulchy. There's no sherry cask in this. We believe this to be 100% bourbon cask matured, but there's a darker, redder side to things. A sweeter, not sweeter, more ripe, let's say, dark red fruit like plums, plum jam. I don't know which one to sip first. I'm going to sip the Smögen seems lighter, so let's go with that. How many people in the chat has bought this? How many people have it? How many people can sip this and immediately see with a half sip how completely different this is? How everything is dialed up in intensity, the density of flavors, that sense that immediately you know that you're going to want to reach for a water dropper, not because of ABV or taming the alcohol strength or anything, but you know that this is so dense that you're going to be able to unlock and open things up with a little drop. How many people have tried this? Greg is saying, is this the one you gathered for 2 bourbon casks, Roy? We put 3 casks together for the Smögen, which is why it yielded. The best vatting that we came up with was the 3 cask vatting. It was a step up, and one of the casks was really quite pronounced. There was a really acidic, sharp quality to it that lifted the fruity density in the other 2 casks. And it was that 3 cask vatting that was the best. And incidentally, and you only know what the bottling size is going to be once it's bottled. And we were targeting 400 bottles, and it came out at 550. Okay, let's have a wee sip of the Springbank. There is a jam quality on this. Red fruit. Again, that fruit density. I'm picking up peat on this. I would never have dreamt that I would, 21 years into whiskey, still able to pick up a wee touch of peat on a Springbank. It's just tonight. I'll take it. Not much peat on the palate at all. The Springbank is much more. I think you could taste this. I could taste this and say, oh, we're in Campbelltown, that's Springbank. I think it's expressively Springbank in quality. It's not coastal, but it's got that funky edge. It's got that mulchy, farm, outdoor, autumnal quality to it. That thing that I associate with and I blame on their beautiful, stubborn adherence to floor malting. Fantastic. Let's go back to the Smögen. I know as soon as my nose is in the glass, it's amazingly sharp, fruity, bright. How can you have that sweet, bready, cakey, pastry, fruity note and then have that amazing salinity right through the middle of it, almost like a brine, like a sweet fruit brine. It's so difficult to talk about, but it's this density of flavor. I'm going to reach for my wee water dropper. I've got my Stefan Novak one that I freshly charged today. Still experimenting with this, which is the best way to pour it, just to get a couple of drops out. That worked quite well tonight. Can you see that? No, you're just out of shot. A wee trickle, a wee 2 or 3 drops each. What does it do to the nose? That's a wee bit. Give me a second. Okay. This one needs a minute. This is a neck pour. The Smögen's not a neck pour. The Smögen's been open a wee while. The Springbank is a neck pour. So this, a wee bit of water in this, doesn't seem to have done too much, but give it a minute. It's a little bit muddy. And I think because I'm nosing it with the sharpness and the brightness of this, oh Jesus, talk to me. How many people have tried this in the chat? Give me your opinions. Let me know. Hjalpin is saying, put it against a Springbank local barley. Oh, that would have been a good call. I still have some local barley. But I was keen to open the Springbank because I got it recently. That's what I'm drinking at the moment, says Gavstrams. Good for you, buddy. Amazing you managed to get a hold of it. You talking about the Springbank? Drummond is saying, are you sure it's not a Glencadam? Aye. That means that you were watching a couple of weeks ago, buddy. For the record, I never went anywhere near Glencadam. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, is this one you got to? I answered that, didn't I, buddy? Black Fen is saying, I finished my first bottle of Aquavit Smögen. I have a spare, but I'm putting off opening it because it seems to evaporate quickly once the cork has been opened. Yeah, that's 2 people complaining about the cork tonight for 2 different reasons. I'll take that as very, very positive feedback, Conrad, and that means a lot. Springbank, trying again, look for salt. Okay. Do you want me to look for salt in the Springbank? Oh, no, but I think it's because of how salty the Smögen is. Ralphie would say give it 12 minutes. Absolutely, he would. Before we bottled the Smögen, I gave Ralphie a sample of the vatting. Aye. One day I'll share the story of what he said about it. It was super, super interesting. Really interesting. I wish I could get him to see it out there in the big world. That would be amazing. Sorry, Randy Rice. Good to see you, Randy. Saying, poured the Aquavit bottle with the Smögen 9-year and 10-year purchased at the same time. Prefer yours. That all great. Fantastic, Randy. That's amazing. Black Fen is saying the cork was fine in my bottle. I just meant the level in the bottle went down quickly once I opened it. I knew exactly what you meant, Conrad. I took it as positive feedback. As soon as you opened the bottle, it was drained. I knew exactly what you were talking about. It's that kind of leaky cork thing that we all. I know. I was just trying to be playful, trying to be funny, and I'm not very funny. Thank you, buddy. As I say, thank you for the positive feedback. It means a lot. I say all that to say this. I started tonight talking about the Wireworks and the challenges that Wireworks have selling their product in environments that are typically associated with selling Scotch whisky in Scotland, and also selling their products to a large community of people that are more or less, you know, not always, but more than 50% invested in Scotch whisky, right? It can be tough for other world whiskies to compete. When you speak to the people that are behind the brands, and when you realize how passionate, how geeky, how supremely knowledgeable these people are about whiskey, and you realize that you're speaking to a peer, a whiskey bother or some, and they just happen to be predisposed to going ahead and making their own product, you know that they're going to inevitably make something special. The closest thing that I can put this Smögen up against in Scotland is not the Springbank that I've opened it tonight, but I think most of you would put the Springbank as the pinnacle, right? The closest thing I can take it towards is Dornoch. The density, the kind of fermentation room forward flavors, the kind of ripe fruit, the bready notes, the pastry, the super sweet citrus, all of those types of things. But what the Smögen has, that Dornoch has less in my experience, is this briny quality, this coastal edge. It's not to elevate it or suggest that it's better or whatever. It's just to try and let people know how it's playing differently in the glass. There's a bright, again, effervescent, fizzy quality to this. I put it to you, if you were sipping this blind and you didn't know what it was, you would be intrigued, you would be puzzled, you would be smitten, maybe even a wee bit seduced. Have I oversold? That's why I need the people in the chat that have gambled on it to feedback. Jimmy Legacy, and I tell you, the Aquaviti Loch Lomond bottlings were pretty damn terrific. If the Smögen is better than those, ellipses, we've got ... Well, let me see. To compare them as something similar would be clumsy, but let me be clumsy. You know what I've been trying. I always go for bright, fruit forward, fizzy, effervescent, clean, spirit driven. People know the style that I've gone after, and the only thing that's departed from that is, and I want to reserve the right to continue to do this, was the 17-year-old Macallan. That's going to be a one-off. That's going to be a step change. It's going to be something different. And that was a collaboration with an independent bottler, Decadent Drinks, right? The Virtual Malt was completely different, but all the other releases has gone for that spirit first vibe, the freshness, the purity, the precision, the effervescence. I feel like everybody comes to appreciate that at some point in the whiskey journey. Maybe they start with that and stick with it. Maybe they come across it halfway in their exploration arc. Maybe it's where they end up, is the cul-de-sac that they're happy to live in. I feel like everybody ends up there. The fortunate among us take that spot and enjoy experimenting and trying lots of different stuff while we're there still. Drummond Dark saying one of my favourites this year is the Millstone Heavily Peated PX single cask. Only had 3 drams, but this might be the best value buy I've made. They sell single casks for €42. Crazy. Just to highlight my point there, PX heavily peated single cask. Millstone, right? Okay, so you're talking about dialing everything up to 11. Heavily peated. Probably one of the most cherried sherries as well, PX. They're always different, of course. But that's just almost like the different end of the spectrum. And as soon as Drummond Dark mentions it, I'm drawn to it thinking, ooh, that would be nice to try that. Anyway, I'll leave you with that tonight. That was me sharing something with you that I feel is genuinely special. It's genuinely available now. And I think the more people that get to try this, the more people that are confident taking a gamble, not based on the fact that it's Swedish or handmade or Golden Promise or 10 years old or yada yada, just trust the effort that has gone into it from me, based and consider the previous releases. Then you'll know why I have the barefaced confidence to sit in front of you at halfway through the year in 2026 and say, hand on heart, this 10-year-old from Sweden is the best whiskey I've been able to share with people in 2026. And that's by an easy measure. And all the anxiety I had about sitting here sharing a whiskey that I'm involved in with you and speaking about it in such ways, I need to just let that all go and just tell you how I feel. This is fabulous in ways that's difficult for me to contain. And I don't think it's fair that I can be so enthused about all the other whiskies out there in the whiskey landscape and the whiskies that I'm involved in making with the people that make the whiskies. I'm very reserved and humble and cagey about. This doesn't make sense when you think about it. There's independence and there's humility and there's honesty and all of that. And sometimes you just have to say, I'm obfuscating the truth with false humility if I don't talk about how good this is. Scott is saying, looking forward to trying the Tormore New Core range. Love the independent bottler of Tormores I've had. And Randy is saying, well, I've always liked unusual cask finishes and maturations. Over time, I've really come to like the whiskies that highlight the base spirit if it's worth featuring. Absolutely, Randy. Absolutely. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. We are 2 hours 24 in, not bad. I think that's okay. I think we're cruising for a comfortable sub 3 hour vPub tonight. Because the school run's finished tomorrow, I can dirty 8 glasses tonight and worry a wee bit less about driving in the morning, but the portion control is still there. Here's the 2 I've just poured. Here's the Arran Barley. Here's the Bruichladdich. I did quite well sipping the Glencadam. Here's the Thompson Brothers 9-year-old blend. And here's 2 others earlier. I hold these up not to show you how little I'm drinking, but if I'm going to pour 8 drams, I'm not going to force myself to finish those 8 drams in front of you. I never ever want to be slurring words too much on a vPub. And I never want to wake up groggy in the morning, and I want to be able to taste the whiskies that I'm pouring and things. I would suggest after the vPub finishes tonight, whatever's left after the quiz at the end, I'll polish off half of these. And the ones that I polish off will betray the ones that I've enjoyed most tonight. Don't you find that that's the way it works? Anyway, that's just the first half of the year. We've got 2 vPubs to go. We've got a blind community tasting next week, and the week after that, it'll be a secret on-location vPub to finish out the year. Then I'll disappear. I'll go dark for some weeks, and sometime towards the end of August, the vPub will crank back up into life again, and we'll run into the second half of the year, where no doubt we'll discover loads and loads of other new tasty whiskies. In the meantime, I hope you'll stay with me for the quiz at the end. I've started to do a new thing, and what I'm going to do is let you know the sources for the questions before the quiz at the end goes ahead. Let's see how you enjoy that. Thank you so much. Well said, Roy. Good to hear obfuscating used in context. I hope I used it correctly, Jimmy Legg. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for being here and support as well. The quiz at the end is always intended to be challenging, but also make you feel good about the knowledge that you've collected through hanging out with whiskey folk and reading whiskey stuff and watching whiskey stuff and learning whiskey stuff and tasting whiskey stuff, all of it. But it's also going to always continue to be a wee bit challenging. And if you're new and you're coming into whiskey now and you think the quiz at the end is just far too much and too intense, stick with it. Maybe like that challenging bottle that you didn't know how to approach it when you first opened it. Maybe it was a Springbank or a Ben Nevis or a Ben Romack or something, and you just weren't sure, but you stuck with it and you've fallen in love with it. It's a wee bit like the quiz at the end, that you just somehow start to pick things up almost by osmosis. You can lean on the knowledge and the vPub and the lounge, and that's why the quiz has to be challenging, because of how knowledgeable you are. Okay. Good luck, everyone. We have a quiz at the end to share. My sources for the quiz at the end this week have come from Charles McLean's Wikipedia, Whiskipedia, as he calls it. The latest edition I have, I think, is a 2022 reprint. I'm not sure, I should have checked that, but it's the most up-to-date Wiskipedia from Charlie McLean. But of course, the thing that's the quiz at the end has been built on over the years is the Malt Whisky Yearbook. And this week's quiz relies on the 2026 edition. That's the most up-to-date edition, but also reaches back 10 years ago for the 2016 edition as well. The questions start off easy. They're all multiple choice. They get trickier. Watch out for the banana skins and the ass hats. Good luck, everyone. Question 1, 25th of June already, my goodness. Question 1, which of these distilleries are fairly modern, being built in the 1970s? I'll give you 3 distilleries, but I want you to pick out a fairly modern, built in the 70s distillery. A, Manachmore, B, Breval, or C, Macduff? Okay, I need to refresh my thing already. Sometimes it just crashes. We're back up and running. Good. Okay. KG replies coming back. James Morgan is in. Good to see you, buddy. He's talking about he peaked at 35 degrees somewhere today. James, I think you're in England, maybe Northern England, maybe. Do you watch that? Banana says Jeff. Sugar Kitty, absolutely. Lots of A's coming in from Donnerpass Whisky, Lachlan McKenzie, Tony Nelson, Daisy in the Netherlands, Ted Brooks, Fraser Ewing, Frank, but Dan, DVDW's in. Good to see Dan. And him alongside Lachlan McKenzie is actually going for B. Randy Rice is going for a B, along with, just as it jumps, Jerry Miller, Mike Hill, and Lassie here. Oatsman, Big Ed, all going for A. Graham Young is going for A and B, as is Gino. Scott Thor is doing the same. Maybe you've flicked through that malt whiskey yearbook in your head, but you're absolutely spot on with Macduff being built in the late 50s and its foundation year in 1960. The 1970s distilleries here, there are two, and it is Manachmore and Bray-Val, both in Speyside. Well done, everyone. Fraser Ewing is saying, I suspect Graham Young is spot on. Ben Whiskey with Molly just back from the toilet in time. Absolutely, buddy. Macduff was the 60s. No. Yes, Jimmy Legg. Absolutely. 1960 founding year. Question 2. Which of the following CVH Spirits owned distilleries once belonged to Edrington? That's the same as the owners of Macallan, Glenrothes, Highland Park. Right up until 2003, though, which of the following distilleries was owned by Edrington? A. Bunnahabhain, B. Deanston, C. Tobermory. Now, this pint glass of water was full of ice tonight. Not only is the ice melted, but the water's not exactly cold anymore, and it's a shame. I didn't feel like I needed it. I've been well hydrated throughout today. It's easy to stay hydrated when it's so warm, right? All you want to do is drink. The ice cubes have been flowing all day. Quite an easy one. They start off quite easy tonight. I hope that all of you are aware that once upon a time, and perhaps arguably the reason that this distillery relied so heavily on sherry casks was because it was under the same umbrella as Macallan, Highland Park, Glenrothes, Tamdhu, Glengoyne, Edrington distilleries. I'm talking about Isla's Bunnahabhain. Well done, almost everybody. Well done. Question 3. Which of the following Speyside distilleries lies furthest north? A. Benromach, B. Benriach, C. Benrinnes. Benromach, Benriach, Benrinnes. Which of these following Ben Speyside distilleries lies furthest north? Fastcraft is saying A, according to the crowd. Absolutely. Quite unanimous as well. But I have to say, it's very, very close. Benrinnes is quite a wee bit further south. Benrinnes is kind of just a wee bit south of, I suppose, Craigellachie, Macallan, that type of neck of the woods. But Benriach is only just a wee bit east and south of Benromach, which is in Forres, just outside of Forres, the furthest north. Question 4. If you visited Kingsbarns in its first year of production, quite a way back now, we're talking about 2015, I think. If you visited Kingsbarns in its first year of production, you may have been taken on tour with Doug Clement, the at the time visitor centre manager. But what is Doug also known for? He's an occasional barfly as well. Doug is also known for A, founding a distillery, B, golf, C, independent bottling. What is Doug Clement also known for? So, once upon a time, the visitor centre manager at Kingsbarns, back in its early days. A personable gent. I've had the fortune to meet Doug. What was he also known for? A, founding a distillery, B, golf, or C, independent bottling. What a guy, says Ben Whiskey with Molly. Met him at Fife Whisky Festival. Quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts, says Jimmy Legg. Interestingly, I was doing a wee bit of research online for Doug, and there's another Dr. Doug Clement that seems to be very, very famous the world over. So it seems like there could be another. Lachlan McKenzie's got an answer. Fraser Ewan is guessing. Sugar Kitty saying Duffy Doug McDuffer, the caddy. Yeah. Ted Brooks is saying Blee. Good to see you playing along, Ted. Nicholas J is in as well. Fantastic, Nicholas. Good to see you. James Morgan. I always hate it when I miss names. Okay, I can tell you that anybody that answered B is absolutely correct. Doug Clement is famously associated forever with being the golf caddy who also founded a distillery. He is the reason for the Kingsbarns project. He's the guy that originally got the initial interest in funding put together, applied for the grant, all of that stuff. Eventually, the Weems family got involved and invested significant money, and it is Weems now. But the reason that Kingsbarns exists where and how it does today is very much on Doug's shoulders. So if you answered A and B, I'm being kind to you. You've got yourself a point. Here's the picture question coming up now, and we have the picture of a distillery. There's a wee ass hat there on the side, so I'm not just going to ask you what distillery we're looking at, which is tricky enough in itself, but I'm going to ask you, how much whiskey does this distillery make? A, 60,000 litres per annum, 160,000 litres per annum, or 600,000 litres per annum. Have a look at that distillery, try and pinpoint what distillery we're looking at, and then the asshattery here is for you to resolve both of those things and work out what scale you think it's at. Asshat questions are deliberately cruel, but I'm finding I'm relying on them more and more as time goes on because the crowd is just so knowledgeable. I always want a 10 out of 10 to be really, really worth the effort. Mike Hill is playing along. Mike, good to see you, buddy. I think we should have a banana skin as well as an ass hat on this one. Wow. Look at those nice barrels, says Sugar Kitty. Pop it up on the screen and do we see it any better? Oh yeah, there is a wee clue there. Well spotted. Well spotted. Good stuff, Jeff. Okay, I'll put you all out your misery. You're kind of all over the place on this one. I can see that. Dougie Lang changed this distillery. Absolutely. It's now owned by Dougie Lang. It was originally started way back. I think it's about 2014, 2015, this distillery. I feel like. I might be wrong there. This is Strathearn in the Southern Highlands, and they are pretty tiny, and they make only 60,000 litres per annum if they are running indeed at full capacity. I gave you the sources at the start of tonight. I removed it. You can see the logo, the branding there with the bird and things. This is Strathearn in the Southern Highlands. If you answered A, give yourself a point as we move forward. When was the last time the industry experienced a period of restricted growth? Specifically, that's a time when Chinook, Mortlach, and Clynelish expansions, for example, were all halted until further notice due to a decline in demand. This is real. This is real. There were projects such as the expansion of Chevallier, Mortlach and Clynelish back in the day, and they saw a drop-off in demand and they froze it all. What year am I talking about? Am I back in 1999? Am I back in 2009? Am I back in 2014? We're in a bit of a lull right now. A lot of these expansion projects are on ice. They're not going to materialize at all in some cases. Chevallier is mothballed right now. Mortlach seems to be running okay, but Clynelish has choked back as well. And indeed, they've shut their visitor centre, despite the fact that it was one of the four corners, £20 million worth of tourist attraction investment from Diageo. Kalila is still open, as is Cardew, Johnny Walker Experience in Princess Street. All of these seem to be still open for now, but through a choke back on demand, maybe other issues, complications, staffing issues, I don't know what's involved, but we can see that we're in a bit of a lull right now. But when was the last time we saw that happen? 27 years ago in 1999, 17 years ago in 2009, or as recently as 12 years ago in 2014. Expansion Enoch, it's already huge. Well, the expansion, Jimmy, did go ahead. It went ahead, but it was put on hold after panic based on demand forecasts as recently as 2014. It's a fickle, volatile, easily scared industry at times that somehow manages to be completely blinded by confidence at other times. It's wild. Whiskey making is wild. The crystal ball that you have needs to be super, super polished. Okay, question 7. 60 new distilleries are listed in the 2026 Malt Whisky Yearbook. 60. But if we went back 10 years to the 2016 Malt Whisky Yearbook, how many were listed then? A, 14. B, 18. C, 24. Go back a decade, our 60 new distilleries becomes A, as small as 14, B, 18, C, 24. Whisky with Molly's Saints Return capacity after the acquisition was upped to over 140,000 litres per annum. Now let's see if Wikipedia lists the capacity. It does, yes. So if we go to Strathearn and Wikipedia, so Charles McLean's Wikipedia lists it as 30,000 litres per annum, 30,000. Let's not go to 2016 Malt Whisky Yearbook. Let's use the 2026 Malt Whisky Yearbook. See what it says for Strathearn. Strathearn, 60,000 litres. That's the sources that I've used, as I've declared tonight. Ben, if you've got updated details, Malt Whisky Yearbook 2024 was it at 140,000 litres per annum. It could have been back in 2024. Whether I actually realised I reached that, it's neither here nor there. We know the rules for the quiz at the end. If you've got information, if you've got insight, if you've got a belief that I've made a mistake or the question is different or can be interpreted differently or whatever, any kind of jiggery pokery or shenanigans, the rules of the quiz at the end, you can claim and take your point. Always. It's the way it works. We're not here to resolve crises or save lives. We're here to enjoy whiskey. I can tell you that 60 new distilleries in 2026, if we went back to that 2016 Malt Whisky Yearbook, we would be back at, believe this or not, anybody that answered A would give yourself a point, a mere 14 distilleries. 14. That's more than quadrupled in a decade. It's incredible. It's incredible. Well done, everybody that's still holding it together at this point. Terrific to see. I think it may be a tricky quiz tonight. I wonder if we'll actually see any 10 out of 10s after these tricky questions. Question 8, which distillery was the first to be purchased by John Walker and Sons for £20,500 back in 1893? This is quite a legacy story here. So John Walker and Sons were obviously Johnny Walker. They were retailers. They were blenders, famously. But they started to get into the distilling business through necessity. Their first purchase was 1893. But which distillery was it? Was it A, Annandale, B, Cardew, or C, Colilla? Which was Johnny Walker's first distillery purchase? Falsgraf is saying unlucky day. Hold on for your passmark, big guy. It's not over yet. Paul Gids is holding it together on a 7 out of 7. Nicholas also on a 7 out of 7. This is Whiskey Weekend. Dram. Lachlan Mackenzie on a 7. We've got lots of 7s, actually. More than I imagined. Amazing stuff. You're so knowledgeable. Lots of high scores as well. Lots of 5s, 6s, and 7s. Scoring as well. Daisy is saying was there a couple of days ago. Fresh off the knowledge train. Miss Vlayland. Guess time again, says Fraser. The backbone of Johnny Walker, says Sugar Kitty. I don't see Graham Fraser, so maybe no 10 out of 10, says Frank. There's quite a few in here that are capable of pulling off a 10 out of 10. Daisy's in doing it. Ben, Whiskey with Molly, Sugar Kitty, Jeff, Gino Cumo and Graham Young, especially if they're teaming up together. They would be formidable tonight. Quite a few big hitters in here tonight, Frank. Let's see how we get on. How are you doing, buddy? How are you doing tonight? Okay, I can tell you that the first Johnny Walker and Sons purchase of a distillery in 1893 was indeed, as well guessed by many of you. Answering B was Cardew. Cardew, fantastic. Question 9, penultimate question. Which of these Highland distilleries, after closing in 1983, had been operating the longest? This is just a long-winded way of me seeing which of these has the oldest distillery or the oldest foundation year. Let's not get confused by how many years they were operational versus closed or anything. It's just the oldest year. A, Glenlochy. B, Glenvor. C, Brora. Glenlochy would have been Western Highlands, Fort William vicinity. Glenvor, Northern Highlands, Inverness vicinity. Brora, of course, quite a wee bit north, about another 45 minutes an hour north of Inverness. Sutherland vicinity. But which of these had been operating the longest? They were all closed in 1983. Only one of them has been resuscitated. But which was the oldest? I wonder what's happened in the football tonight. Pick up the highlight reels, I guess. That can be my wind down. A for me, says James Morgan. Ted Brooks is going for C. I think this is splitting everyone because we've got Nicholas going for a B on this one. I can tell you that by quite a margin, 1819 founding year for Brora, Glenlochy and Glenvor were 1890s distilleries quite some time later. Brora was the answer, 1819. Okay, here we come to the asshat at the end. This is a deliberately obnoxious, horrible, cruel even question. You need to know the answer to two different things to get it right. Dan DVW is saying vPub's better than the World Cup. Thanks, Dan. I really doubt it, but I appreciate it, buddy. I really do. Daisy is saying 2-0 so far. Okay, okay. Yes. I even forget who's playing tonight. It was Germany and Ecuador, wasn't it? Oh, no. Who's playing right now? Norway, France is over. Senegal, Iraq. It's going to struggle to keep up. Croatia, Ecuador, and Germany. Wow. Okay, I'm looking at Fridays. Anyway, sorry, I'm distracted. I should be paying attention to all of you guys. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm such a loser. The asshat. Here we go for the asshat. How many Lynn Scotch malt distilleries are currently in operation? This is a bit of a soft nod to my wife. You may know her name is Lynn. And last week I was very, very late for the vPub. First time it's ever happened. I went live about 16 or 17 or maybe even 18 minutes late. And the reason was I was caddying for her, which has also been a wee bit of a soft theme tonight. I was caddying for Lynn in the semi-final. She managed to get through the final, which she played on Saturday, and she managed to win. She's the ladies' champion at the golf club this year. So this is a question, a wee nod to my wife. How many Lynn distilleries are there? Currently, Scotch malt distilleries in operation. About the same as the number of A, core range releases from Glenglassaugh, B, operational distilleries on Islay in the year 2000, or C, years of operation since the founding year of Jackton. You might notice that all of those potential answers are the exact same as the potential answers of last week, but it changes the question completely. How many Lynn Scotch malt distilleries are currently in operation? Netherlands playing tonight, but the vPub has priority. Okay, let's get it finished, Dan, so we can all go off and get our feet up. FFS Royce says to Ben Whisky with Molly. Congratulations to Lynn, the champion, says Dorpass Whisky. Thanks, Tim. Nice to see you in, buddy. Nice to see you in. Straight in with a guess of A. Nay idea. Okay, let me try and help you out a wee bit. Let me tell you that the core range releases from Glenglassaugh with a Port Soy, Sandend, and 12-year-old number 3. Operational distilleries on Islay in 2000, depending on whether you want to suggest that Bruichladdich was running at that time or not. I know it was 2001, but either 6 or 7. And the years of operation since the founding year of Jackton is 6. So how many Lynn distilleries are there? How many Lynn? Congratulations to your wife and your caddying skills, I have to say, my friend. Hoyt, thank you for the congratulations, but it was absolutely down to the caddy. I was invested in every shot. It's wonderful. It's a privilege. It's stressful. It's good fun. Mike Molasses is in. Good to see you, buddy. Put me out of my misery. I can tell you that. We have Lynn distilleries in the shape of, should I just read these out? Maybe I have to read them out. I didn't write them down. Did I? Maybe I did. Okay, Lynn. We have Lagavulin, Lindors, Stirling, Ballindalach, Linkwood, Tamnavulin. I know you all hate me, but we have 6 Lynn distilleries in operation, which means that you have a 66% chance of getting it right. If you've answered B or C tonight, you take the asshat at the end. Does that mean that we have any 10 out of 10s at the end? Did we make it? God damn, says Stuart Dalglish, taking a 5 out of 5. Stuart, that's absolutely a peach of a pass mark. A half point. I would, for Scotland to scrape through somehow, some miracle, it's not going to happen. Whisky with Molly saying, oh balls, why can I only think of Lindors and Linkwood? Because it's what it starts with. This looks like a 6-iron. Lynn, give me the 7 and shut up. It was kind of like that theme. It was that theme, actually, where I'm tuned into her game and I pretty much know, but so there was quite a lot of agreement. It was great fun. Hey, Whiskey with Molly got a 7 out of 10 tonight. Oh, it must have been a challenging one tonight for you to score a 7, but still a tremendous score. Ben, come on. Nicholas is beating you, though, with an 8. And Paul Gidley's got a 10 out of 10, and he's celebrating. Paul might be our only 10 out of 10 tonight. Anybody else make a 10? Yes, Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow is celebrating during the match, a 10 out of 10. So we've got 2 fantastic. Daisy on an 8. Well, never change your mind, says Daisy. Dan is celebrating a 9. Big Ed is on a 9. 9 out of 10, I'll take it, says Ted Brooks. 7 out of 10 for Mike Hill. 9 out of 10 for Gino. It just jumps there. It jumps. Sugar Kitty Jeff also on a 10. So we've got 3 over the line with a 10 out of 10. Oh, for feck's sake, says Whiskey with, Mike Molasses. Superb, Mike. Peter is saying, with that, I call it a day and hit the sack. Thanks for organising Aquaviti. 8 out of 10, enough to sleep well. See you all next time. Keep cool, Slanchova. Well done, the 10, says Whiskey with Molly Ben. Fantastic. Daisy saying, congratulate the 10s. Mike Hill, well done, the 10s. It is tough to get that elusive, tricky, challenging 10. It's the way it always should be, and hopefully maybe you're intrigued. Maybe you go off and research something. Maybe you just come back and shout at me for making a mistake or getting something wrong. It's all fine. It's all fine. I just love being here. I love hanging out with you. Listen, if anyone has picked up the Smögen tonight and they buy it and they sit with it and they sip it and they think that I've sold them anything other than earnest honesty, I'll buy it back off you. That's how confident I am. It's a fantastic whiskey. I'm so pleased with it. When I'm in the mood for this and I walk into this room and there is 1,000 other options, I'm still reaching for it. I'm still reaching for it. In fact, you know, because I emptied it on a stream not so long ago and the empty bottle's lying down on the floor here. It's very, very easy for me to get through this. Very, very easily. It's wonderful stuff. I hope that those of you that have picked it up will either chime in with your own opinions in the comments and reassure everyone that it's honesty. Just as somebody being very generous, Jimmy Legg, sending 10 Aquaviti gift memberships out to everybody. Thank you for looking after everyone, Jimmy. Thanks for your generosity. Lachlan is saying, thanks, Roy, and good night, folks. Listen, if you're going off to watch your football, if you're going off to get to into your beds, if you're trying to hide away from the heat, or you're trying to snuggle up, whatever you're doing, thank you for hanging out with me for another wee Thursday night. Thank you for your support, your patience, your understanding. Thank you for just being beautiful whiskey folk and being here. I'm going to remind you all that you're very dearly loved, and I look forward to hanging out with you all next week. Until then, Slancheva. Cheers, everyone.